Hello, friends and bees and friends who are also bees, and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we are, as you can see, continuing the playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry, Miotsukushi Omote. When we left off last week, I closed Brave on my phone and then had to immediately reopen it because I forgot that I needed another tab open. Such a fool. When we finished last week, we had a library date, Waggle's Eyebrows, with Mion, where she began to tell us a little bit more about the history of Hinamizawa. And the name of the next chapter is The Truth Revealed, which has got me mildly worried, hence the name of the title. It may change as we go on. So let's swap over to the gameplay, shall we? And as my computer fills up to it. But, it's very loud. I apologise. Come on, Keiichi, don't hold back. Go ahead and eat it all. Wait, hey. To my bewilderment, cakes, parfaits, and other sweet treats were being carried out, one after another. Do something. I'm going to do something which may work. It does not work. Okay. One after another, and the various colourfully decorated desserts were being set down on the table in front of me, one by one. Thanks to that, the surrounding area was already rife with a sickly sweet aroma. And that alone was enough to make me feel full to angle the fan towards me. It is unfortunately now more angled towards the mic, but it keeps me cooler, so. The customers eating and drinking at the other tables looked awestruck as they watched the scene unfold. I mean, I'm overwhelmed enough as it is. I don't need weird people staring at me too. So where would you like to start? Every single one of these is a work of art from our patissier. By the way, my recommendations are this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Yeah. Sorted. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, hey, maybe I should use my laptop instead of my phone for this, and then think about how my phone is right next to me and my laptop is all the way on the bed 3 steps away and decide not to. If you're going to make recommendations, limit it to a single item. Whatever, it's not a big deal. Anyway, I need you to explain this for me. Why did you suddenly call me out here, and what's with a mountain of cakes? Huh? You put in so much effort. It's only fair to treat you to dinner. Does cake replace bread as a staple food of your household, Marie Antoinette? Just how many calories are in all this? Does she want me to die young from metabolic syndrome? Guessing this is a very strange dream. It was right after I got home from school. Right after Mum and Dad told me they had to head to Tokyo for work, when I began checking our stock of instant noodles to figure out what to do for dinner, I received a phone call from Shion. Then she told me she had something to talk about and invited me to Angel Moore, and here I am. Why did this turn into a cake tasting party? Do you not like it, Keiichi? You had fun with Sis yesterday, so why not have fun with me today? What do you say? The way she said that had an extremely bewitching sound to it, but what was she thinking? It's not like that. I cleared my throat, decided to move on to the main subject. Otherwise, there's no point in bringing me all the way out here. So, what happened yesterday? Oh, excuse me. I'm taking a quick break. The smile vanished from Shion's face. Then she signalled a senior waitress and sat down in the seat across from me. This isn't a weird dream. Insane in the rain. When I looked more closely at the surrounding area, there were no other customers near our table. Was it something Shion was worried about talking about around other people? Yesterday I waited all night with my phone at my bedside, but Mia never called. And the next morning, when I arrived at our usual meeting place, Mion wasn't there. Apparently she was taking a sick day. I'm gonna have to double check this, because I can't quite remember what happened. Keep hitting all the description just says work together to solve their friends' problems before it's too late. It doesn't tell me what's going on with Mion. Apparently she was taking a sick day. What's more, even though Shion would normally show up, she didn't come to school that day, so naturally we were all getting worried. I heard a little while ago. Sis was out today. I thought she was going to call me, but I called a call from you instead. Unbelievable. Shion had a bewildered look on her face, so she tried to calm herself by scooping her hair back and taking a sip of juice without bothering to use the straw. And then, a harsh noise rang out as she slammed a cake glass down on the table, then turned my way and looked at me across a pile of cakes. Ah. How about you? Yeah. Let's start from the end. Okay. Go back. Shion made a pained expression and leaned down on her elbows. That gesture had an overwhelming atmosphere to it, so I swallowed my spit to prepare myself. The problem is completely resolved. Okay.
Come on in, Chuck.
Come on in. Hello, Thionel. Thank you very much for the raid. How are you? I hope you are doing well. I hope you're having a good day. And that you had a good stream. Ooh, ESO. I hope that went well. And hello, friends from ThaiStream. If you don't know me, my name is Mochi. I'm a variety streamer. At the moment, streaming Higurashi When They Cry, Miotsukushi Omote, which is an advanced story of a visual novel series that I very much enjoy. I haven't quite worked out if we're in like reality yet or be a dream. We just started a new chapter, but we'll see. Yeah. Problem is completely resolved. I was caught by surprise and unable to understand what she meant, so I cried out in a stupid voice. When Shion noticed that, she grinned a devilish smile, then burst into non-stop laughter. It's just as I said. I realised you must be thinking, you made me worry, but sorry, not sorry. Shion let out a strange giggle. In other words, it's safe to assume that Mion and Shion somehow managed to reconcile? So in that case, you were just putting on airs after what you said yesterday. Shion, you're terrible. And Mion too. Been worried sick all this time. That feeling goes both ways, you know. Is that really so different from you running around with Rika, Keiichi Meibara? I couldn't say anything to counter Shion's sharp point. I certainly have been spending a lot of time together with Rika. There's no helping that. This is in regards to the argument that twins had last night in the library. Last night / last week. Still, I can't tell her the reason for that. Well, I'm listening if you have her a bittle. Sis told me I should stop and make you worry a little more. What's that supposed to mean? That's too much, you can just think about it from a man's point of view. If you want to attract someone's attention, you can't waste time thinking about other women, Keiichi. That'll just make her nervous. Just kidding. Not only is that mean-spirited, but it's also a total misconception. Anyway, let's get back to the main topic. Sure thing. Well, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding between Sis and me. To be precise, it was between myself and the Sonozaki family. I've always been able to hang out with Sis like normal. I never hated her, really. Right. I always thought you two argued like that because you were really close, but after what I saw yesterday, I wasn't so sure. So that's how you saw it, Keiichi. But like isn't quite the opposite of hate. If you don't like someone, you can feel indifferent towards them, especially me. Shion smiled as she said that. Maybe it was just my imagination, but her smile lacked its usual cynical slant. It was a radiant smile, like she'd just received a gift. Hiccups. Although yesterday really was a risky situation. If Sis hadn't come over to talk to me, I think our breakup would have continued even now. So Mion did talk to you? Yeah, we talked about all kinds of things. Well, at first, and I'm only saying this to you, Keiichi, but at first I was pretty frustrated and didn't want to hear anything. Then Shion told me about yesterday. We are in reality, not weird dream. When I got home, I threw a pillow at the wall in a fit. I was annoyed by the dull sound it made as it hit, and then rolled to the floor, so I rushed over and kicked it into the air. The twins had an argument, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the argument is about. Just bad. The whole week ago, I can't remember things from yesterday, let alone a week ago. Anyway, I really just felt awful. And it wasn't just because of Mion. Keiichi was right beside her, but he didn't do anything to call her out for her cowardly behaviour. In fact, he chased me away like I was in his way. What's with that attitude, after all we've done to support you? On a first date at the library? You two are so mature. How carefree do you have to have that much fun studying together at that age? I'm so pissed off. What good is Mion if she can't do anything when it really matters? It's been a long time since then. I'm trying to put on a good face at everyone and say what I think, but it just can't be done. How miserable. Mion gets paraded around by the Sonozaki family and the people of Hinamizawa. What a hopeless fool. How annoying. Sickening. It's driving me crazy. I'm getting irritated, resentful. It's frustrating. I know. These feelings swelling around in my heart aren't actually directed at Mion and Keiichi. In fact, it's not really fit for anyone. So I couldn't find a way out. I was starting to feel like I needed to vomit. It's painful, sore, depressing. So hard to endure. I felt an emotion swelling up inside of me. Peter? You good? We're good. Swelling up inside of me. It was envy. Why does Mion get to have such a nice boyfriend? Why does everyone get along so well with Mion? And yet the boy I like is gone. Going back into stabby Shion times here. And I can't get along with anyone. Tears came overflowing, non-stop. I should have been able to endure it. I thought that if I kept it locked in my heart, it would disappear someday. But in the end, it's useless. Anytime I see the two of them having fun together, it reminds me that I'll never see myself like that. And it's utterly mortifying. I hate it, but there's no use fighting it. Satoshi. Can't do fake crying. Tears spilled onto my bedsheets, leaving stains all over the place. Satoshi, why did you disappear? If you were still around, I'm sure I'd be able to support me with all my heart. And so, Usher Part 1. Why did you leave me? Why did you... Every day I wake up and I'm still obsessed with Ghost Quarter. If you were still around, I'm sure I'd be able to support me with all my heart. Even if Keiichi butts in, I might get worked up, but I'd be able to calm myself by teasing them. I want to see you. I want to hear your voice. I want to talk. I want to gaze at your shy, constantly embarrassed face, forever and ever. And I want you to praise me for working so hard to keep the promise I made. I've been working hard to take care of Satoko all this time. No need to thank me. After all, I enjoyed spending time with Satoko too. I was able to find a whole lot of great things about that girl that I never knew before. And I think she probably likes me too. And it's actually thanks to me that she's able to eat squash now. So tell me I did a good job. I want you to stroke my head like you used to. Huh? Just then the doorbell rang. Really like that fish rug. When I raised my tear-filled face to look up, the bell rang again like it was chasing me. I looked at the clock. It was already pretty late. Who on earth would come here at this hour? Who is it? Shion, it's me. Sis? I was a bit surprised. Wouldn't be that strange for an acquaintance of mine to come over at this hour, but Mion had never come over this late before. Not to mention after our argument earlier. Normally she'd wait a while for us both to cool off and give me a warm phone call like nothing had happened. That was her usual pattern. I grabbed a tissue from my bedside to wipe away my tears and stood up. And then I spoke in a deliberately distorted, guttural voice to vent my displeasure. What are you doing here at this hour, sis? That's bad manners, you know. Sorry. Hey, Shion, I want to talk. Sorry, but I have nothing to say. Please, just go home. Don't know what voice I'm doing now. Granny's going to be upset if you don't get home soon. It's fine. I can talk it over with Granny. Even if you say that, it's a bother for me too. It's Granny. I think I'm the one who kept you here. And in the end, I'll look like the bad guy, right? Yeah, probably. In that case, you don't need to open the door. I'll talk from here. I just want you to listen. I let out an exasperated sigh. How stupid and naive can you be, oh glorious family? If you want to talk, feel free. But I need to take a shower first. If you're okay with that, you can say as much as you'd like and go home. Thanks, Gio. From beyond the door, I could hear sobbing mixed in with the sound of her voice. All right, I'll take a shower. Let me grab some clothes and a towel. I did all I could for Satoshi. All this time, I always thought I did my best. When Oishi started suspecting him, I asked Granny and the Sonozaki group to do intelligence gathering to make sure he didn't get caught. And I begged Dad to help out. So I don't know where he disappeared to. And honestly, I was convinced there wasn't anything more I could do. How would we know all that? Why are you bothering to say this now? Totally ridiculous. Kind of thought / assumed that Mion was the one who sort of got the Sonozakis to, like, get that guy to take the fall for Satoshi, who killed his aunt the year before the game was set. That was when I learned about your relationship with Satoshi. When I realised the two of you were like that, I did the best I could to convince Granny and the Sonozakis that he was a good kid. But everyone, they had a hard time saying yes. It was disappointing and sad. I was always thinking of apologising to you. What's this? Confession? Does she really think that's all it'll take for me to forgive her? Sorry. I'm sorry. How annoying. Just go home already. Thinking that, I walked over to the door while brushing my hair. What you really wanted me to do wasn't that. Leon's hiccup voice was coming from beyond the door. Her words were tear-soaked and full of so much sobbing that I was having trouble hearing. When I started to like Keiichi, that's when I finally understood. If everyone was opposed to a relationship between Keiichi and me, I think I'd be doing everything I could to persuade them until they could accept her. It wouldn't just be with all my might. I'd be desperate, willing to throw my life away. Still, if there was a bad guy like that out there, even if it killed me in the end. Here's this lunacy. He was the one who disappeared. I'd scour the whole village, and if that didn't work, I'd move on to the next town and the next and keep searching. I wonder if that's what happened at the end of them. No, he's not disappeared, he just died. I couldn't find him after searching all of Japan. I'd go overseas. Someone claimed to have a lead, even if it only had a 1% chance of paying off. That'd be more than enough. And if I still couldn't find him, I'd start to suspect that everyone was lying to me, so I'd start getting close and listening in. I'd do anything to see him again. There was someone out there who killed him. I'd kill them with my own hands. And those thoughts... Stop. Chill. You've been thinking those exact same thoughts for the past year. And I never realised. Truly the worst. The most pathetic. With the power of the Sonozakis, power of the Sonozaki family head, had to be more that could be done using that power. Shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I could no longer keep. I vomited all the dark feelings I'd been keeping in check until now and hurled them at my idiot sister on the other side of the door. But always wanted to keep that locked away forever. It was hot enough to boil and yet still cold. And those negative thoughts wouldn't stop. Renaming stream. It doesn't matter what you say now, or whatever excuses you make. Satoshi is no longer here, and it's all because of you. It's all over. He's already gone. No matter how much you apologise, it won't bring him back. Sorry, Shin. Truly sorry. What I needed to do wasn't just to help you and Satoshi. It was to protect your happiness, no matter what it took in exchange. You didn't understand. You didn't understand. And yet you did nothing. Even though you're Mion. Even though you're Mion, you didn't do anything for me and Satoshi. Sorry. Sorry, Shion. That's enough. I'm not interested in hearing your apology any longer. Are you satisfied? Then go home already. Please. Shion, listen. I like Keiichi. I love him. Yikes! I told you to go home. However, I refuse to date him until we find Satoshi. We'll just stay friends like we are now. We won't go out together like today, just the two of us. And even if he starts to get a crush on someone else, I'll keep quiet about it. Huh? What's this? You can date for your own self-satisfaction. So, let's search together for Satoshi. This is idiot saying. Sis, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand whether that has anything to do with finding Satoshi. Because I'm an idiot. A hopeless idiot. I want to look for Satoshi. I want to find out where he went. But if I don't do this, I'll never be able to understand your desperation. Because I am an idiot. I'll end up making compromises against someone down the line unless I'm enduring the same pain you're going through. Just then, Mion put her hands onto mine. I looked at her fingers. 3 of the fingernails on her left hand looked as ugly as mine. Something I hadn't thought about, but just now thought about. Shion was punished for being with a guy who the family thought was inappropriate for extremely stupid reasons. And Shion was forced to carry out the punishment. Shion's point of view, yes, the 2 of them are twins. It's very confusing. It was like completely heartless and psychopathic, but it was also like messed up. But trying to remember the name. It is I think it's me. Yeah, Miyokashi Hen. So Watanagashi Hen is good. Miyokashi Hen I think is better. It is. Truly heartbreaking in a very good way. What is mine? Mion? What's this? Tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't have to answer. She had the same scars I did. She atoned as well. The way those wounds are healing looked the same as mine. So did she get them around the same time as I did? It was unfair that only you had to go through them. I felt so bad. Mion. Please. Please, Shion. I know this comes too late. Even if you say so, I just can't help it. But please, let's search for him together. I like Keiichi just as much as you like Satoshi. But I'll keep those thoughts locked away until we find him. I promise. I promise you that. Idiot. Idiot. This girl, my one and only sister. Seriously, there's no use fighting it. There's no helping it. You're such a colossal moron. What are you saying? What are you apologizing for? Back then, Mion really truly was doing her best for my sake. Even when I had my nails removed, even though it had nothing to do with her, she endured it alongside me, didn't she? Even so, she still wants to share the pain with me, once again. Think it through. Try hard to remember, once more. The one who did something wrong was me, wasn't it? I was spoiled and unwilling to move, just holding a grudge and feeling hatred towards everything and letting it fester. Deep down, you feel love. Mion. No, the Shion. Very much so. Doubly confusing. The twins switched identity when they were very young, so the person we know as Shion was at birth was named Mion, and vice versa. And so even though Mion, the one on the other side of the door, is technically the younger sibling, they sort of taken on the persona of they're like heir to that business. Basically, in my opinion, the Sonozakis as a family, but especially the twins, are some of the most interesting characters in this entire game, and there's so much like backstory and suffering in between them. It's very, very good. It's one of the reasons that I think less so Watanagashi, but definitely Miyokashi Hen is one of my favorites. Watanagashi Hen really amped up the horror. Like, say if Onikakushi, which is the first one, was like a 5, Miyokashi was a 10, and then it sort of changes. But sorry, Watanagashi was a 10, but Miyokashi is the first one where no, it's not, because whatever. It's like it's told from the point of view of somebody who truly loses their mind in the mental illness sense and Hinamizawa syndrome sense. And it's good. Not me just sitting here thinking, maybe I should just replay Miotsukushi. Shion? You're bothering the neighbours, so hurry up and come inside. I caught my breath when I found her curled up in the shadows by my feet. She was out here on the cold ground. She was kneeling with her head on the floor, even though nobody was here to see it. Sis. The tears came back and they wouldn't stop. Why? The dark, heavy presence smouldering on my chest just a moment ago, Hinamizawa syndrome, vanished like it was purified and my whole body felt light. It's getting late. We can stay here tonight. Let's make Granny angry together. Shion. Without even thinking, we hugged each other. And then the two of us cried and cried and cried some more. If anyone could see us, they couldn't help but think we were total fools. But even so, in the end, I couldn't help but love her. So anyway, that's how it was. Yesterday, the two of us slept in the same bed together for the first time in ages. See, thank goodness. I felt deeply relieved to hear that things worked out. Well, it was a really stressful experience, so we were actually still together until just a moment ago. We both skipped school and spent the day sharing exciting stories. She let out a weird laugh as she said that, and yet she had a cheerful smile on her face, like an evil spirit had been exorcised from her. She told me that there was nothing nonsensical about it. So anyway, as a self-proclaimed future sister-in-law, I thought it would be nice to share a little happiness with my brother-in-law. But if you ask me, this quantity of desserts isn't nearly enough. I'm not sure I can eat more than just a few of these. Nevertheless, it was more than enough to show me how happy Shion was. In which case, the only proper response is to take it like a man. Right then, I'm the man they call Cave Angel. I can demolish this volume of desserts and still have room for more. Thought you'd say that, Keiichi. So please, go ahead. Keep on eating more and more. And if you'd like to place another order, just ring the bell, okay? No, that won't be necessary. By the way, Shion, what on earth was that scrapbook Mr. Kana gave you the other day? I asked about the topic. I suddenly remembered while wolfing down a fourth buffet. I have a massive sweet tooth, and even that makes me feel ill. Although speaking of sweet teeth, the vending machine in one of the other buildings, which has chocolate and candy and shit in it, which has hated me all year, has finally started to accept my card. And every day it is a trial and a test of my strength not to go get some chocolate. Oh, it's right there. At the time I wasn't able to see much more of the cover before Mion intervened, but I remembered seeing all sorts of articles clipped to it. By the way, Shion seemed to have thoroughly enjoyed her fill of sweets, and was now savouring the coffee. How sly. Didn't I tell you? She let me borrow it for a little while. Hiccups. After that, Shion said, "Wait a moment," and rushed over to her coat closet before returning. And in her hand was the very same scrapbook from that day. When I told her I was investigating Hinamizawa's secrets, like the demoning away phenomenon, she offered to loan it to me in case it might help. I'd keen to give it a bit of a look, but it leaned so heavily into the occult that I had to stop immediately. Shion handed me the scrapbook and I examined the content. Indeed, there were clippings from dubious articles all over the place that mentioned weird stuff like aliens. I noticed something that stood out somewhere, past the middle and stopped flipping the pages. It was an article about people being demoned away in Hinamizawa. Shion, did you read this part? Changing the title back to... Oops. That's my loud keyboard. Huh? Yeah, Sis and I read that part together. Sis was laughing her ass off and called it an utter pile of lies. What do you think, Shion, about these stories? Huh? Keiichi, are you telling me you believe this stuff? This is a total gossip article. It's a mix of speculation and pure fiction, you know? Shion deeply laughed after saying that. Just like Mion, she didn't seem to believe the material at all. Well, I might have taken it more seriously if I'd read it when I was still suspicious of the Samsaki. But when I was listening to all those stories from Sis yesterday and today, I realised something. There's actually an inconsistency with the cursed demoning people. An inconsistency? Yeah. The reason for the victims being demoned away has been growing increasingly vague. Started out directed at people involved with the dam project and people who opposed the village. 4 years ago it was the construction worker who killed the on-site construction manager. 3 years ago it was the couple, and 2 years ago the priest's wife. And then last year the housewife and Satoshi. Think about it calmly, they weren't really enemies of the village. Plus. I repeated the word back at her like a parrot, while thinking about what she said. She shrugged her shoulders like she was a bit surprised, then shook her head several times and answered. I've also been, like, this is one of the things that's got me as well. I think because knowing sort of, so, this is a, like, spoiler for many of the mysteries of the series, FYI. So the first time was an argument that got out of hand. I have a feeling Hinamizawa syndrome may have been involved. I can't entirely remember. It may just have been literally an argument that got out of hand. Second time was because, spoiler alert, at least in one of the realities, because Satoko's Hinamizawa syndrome got really bad and she thought they were going to try and get rid of her, so she pushed them instead. The third time, in All Goes Round, I think, is completely, like, manipulated and pushed into being by Takano. And then the fourth year is completely unrelated because it's like, it's Satoshi taking advantage, I think, of the phenomenon to kill his aunt, and then the vanishing is, I won't spoil the vanishing, but it's like, it's not, it has a very mundane explanation, the vanishing does. So then this year, the deaths that will happen, ostensibly, spoiler alert, Takano and What's-His-Face are murdered because they're outsiders. But in reality, What's-His-Face is murdered because he'll get in the way of Takano's plan, and Takano disappears because she's faking her death to not be suspected for it. So, like, years 4 and 5 are really, yeah. Okay. Plus, the Sonozaki family actually hasn't done a thing. They haven't done anything to instigate the curse or anything to prevent it. They were just as afraid of the rumors as us. It's just as Shion says. Mario and the Sonozaki family were never involved in the major event. Rika confirmed that Shion's story was correct. Even though people accused her of organising the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson during the Gamma conflict 5 years ago, in reality she didn't have anything to do with it. But it massively intensified the opposition movement, and the power of the Sonozaki family was at its peak thanks to the huge campaign. So naturally they subtly implied the opposite. God, that was actually by Takano as well. Because she didn't want the dam project to go ahead because she wanted to be able to continue her research. So the Sonozaki family and Hinamizawa. Truth is, the power is mostly symbolic. Same can be said for the other members of the three families, the Kimiyoshis and the Furudes. However, since the three houses needed absolute authority to bring the villagers together, they built up an object of worship in Oyashiro-sama and treated these related incidents as work of the curse. By inciting fear in the masses and mobilizing that misinterpretation, the legend of people being demoned away was born. It's a pretty annoying story. Rika smiled and said, "Me," then shrugged her shoulders to respond to my honest thoughts. Can't be helped. It's easy to imagine the fight with the on-site construction manager developed due to bad relations with the people at the construction site. But the accident with the dam supporter Hojo family was far too symbolic for that. First I suspected the Sonozaki family was doing things behind the scenes too. But they didn't do anything. That's what you determined, right, Rika? Rika remained silent and deeply nodded. Seeing her like that, I wondered if I should ask this, but I silently turned to her with determination and spoke up. Hey, Rika, do you know why your parents died? Why are you asking about that? It's for my own selfish reasoning. Shion told me there was something inconsistent about the people being deemed away by the... I think it falls apart when you look at everyone's motives. The on-site manager 4 years ago was due to trouble with subordinates and supervisors. 3 years ago, the Hojo's couple's accident was allegedly because they defied the villagers and agreed to the construction project. But it's not even, in my opinion, a demoning away, it's literally that one of the bodies just wasn't found because they were pushed into a river, or a body of water at least, which is, it's just natural for bodies not to be found. Sounds. A housewife 1 year ago was murdered by a thrill seeker trying to piggyback on the curse. Or an older brother trying to end some abuse, having gotten quite ill. The motives behind the murders weren't actually consistent at all. The one thing the murders had in common was the victims being an enemy of the village. With enough effort, you could reframe the housewife murder a year ago to seem like it benefited the village. But that only served to highlight how different the incident was 2 years ago with Rika's parents. There certainly was a reason they were targeted, but other elements like the killer's motive were so unnatural and inexplicable that it was impossible to develop a profile of the culprit. For some reason, I can't think of even a single man-made motive for the incident 2 years ago. The inverted commas reasoning is that they didn't oppose the damn project enough. The actual reasoning is that Rika's mother was causing problems for Takano. Many of the issues in this game can be solved by it was causing Takano problems. Unless it really was due to illness. There's no other explanation besides the curse. And that's why everyone started to so strongly believe in the existence of the curse. So that incident changed everyone's perception of the previous incidents, making them strangely paranoid. In other words, you could say that was the precise moment the curse of Hinamizawa was born. Rika still hadn't said yet if Miotsukushi was responsible for her parents' murder. It is. But it feels like the essence of this conspiracy is buried there. It's amazing, Keiichi. Rika sighed as if she was impressed, then put on a bright smile. See, so you made it that far. I figured you would, Keiichi. I'd never even thought about it like that. Rika took a breath and kept quiet for a little, like she was thinking something over. Then she looked up at the starry night sky and spoke in a voice completely devoid of emotion. A natural death. I couldn't believe it. But as I'm sure you suspect, it's clearly not the work of a curse. There's no obvious motive for a person to have done it. The culprit used the curse to hide it. The culprit used the curse? In which case, the culprit... That's enough now. Then Rika apologetically bowed her head. Honestly, I wanted to hear more, but I had faith she'd tell me someday, so I didn't say anything more. More importantly, Keiichi, I want to see that scrapbook from Takano. Sure, here it is. I opened my book and pulled out Takano's scrapbook, which Shion had loaned to me. Rika took it and began randomly flipping through, and her mood gradually soured as she did. You, Shion, and Reina have all seen this before. Last, I finally understand. You understand what, exactly? Just had the brainwave that it's probably, as much as Takano can, deliberately designed to drive people insane. His scrapbooks. These were all a trap. What do you mean? Delusion is nothing more than a delusion, as long as it remains inside your head. But as soon as that reasoning is written down, it becomes a theory. The same material written by other people gives you an empathetic feeling. It's not just me. Seeing it in magazines and other media makes it seem more like actual possibility, lends credibility. So if someone with doubts about the Samazaki family, or Hinamizawa in general, were to read this, they start to believe their thoughts were more than mere delusions, and they become even more distrusting. People only see the reality they want to see. I remember something I read in a magazine somewhere in the past. Shion was able to escape from the trap because she reconciled with me. That was a dangerous situation. But if you keep going forward like this, I'm sure she'll... Oh. Rika? You really saved the day, Keiichi. Honestly, I'm so glad to have you as a friend. Rika had a bright smile on her face as she said that. I don't quite understand, but it seems like I did something too. Anyway, what is it, Keiichi? I told you that Mr. Kano was the one who made this scrapbook. In which case, don't you think that she herself believes it's all true? It's like she wants to see the curse with her own eyes. It was just a casual comment, but Rika's eyes opened wide as soon as she heard it, and she began quickly flipping through the scrapbook. Then, the moment Rika opened a particular page, she caught her breath and tensed up like she was frozen solid. What's wrong? Rika? Yes, I will kill you. The corpse of the Queen Carrier is the key to this mission. You're going to become an ugly political tool far away in Tokyo. And then the legend of Onagafuchi will finally come to an end. Hey, Kano wants to artificially make the curse happen, kill the entire village? Uh-huh. I was completely stunned by what Rika just said. The driving force behind the conspiracy to murder Rika was to annihilate Hinamizawa. Dun dun dun. The next chapter has a similarly depressing title. I just want to double check. Oh, 10, 11, 12, 14. 14 of 27 now. My capacity to do basic math fountain. Okay, right, never mind. 13 of 27. I forgot when it became like this. Or rather, I found it bothersome to remember. There were at least a dozen opportunities, but I didn't want to think about where they fell. Even if you gather them together, there's not one good person among them. I hated just remembering the faces of family members, so I had no interest in it. All women are enemies. It's always eat or be eaten. A worthless man beside you at full throttle will become unpleasant even before he becomes boring. Now I'm angry. Why are all these people around me so useless and idiotic? When they open their mouths, all they ever do is talk about themselves and drone on about their own desires. Even if you indulge what they have to say, it's like being thrown inside a filthy, smelly gutter. No matter how much I try to shine, I'll immediately sink down and lose interest in seeing anything more, feeling absolutely disgusted. I spat down on the ground. The inside of my mouth had that nasty, miserable smell from earlier. I looked around for something to drink, but there were no vending machines on this backwater country road. That pissed me off even more, so I felt like I wanted to scream. I haven't done anything bad. Bad ones everyone else. If things had played out properly, I'd be moving into a luxury apartment in Gogoro right now. Could have been lounging on a brand new sofa, drinking alcohol. Or I could be counting stacks of cash while sitting on a first-class international flight. Just thinking about the people who robbed me of my certain happiness makes my stomach churn. Warina. What's this about family? Don't say something so idiotic. When I remembered what that middle-aged Ryugu said, I couldn't help but shout. Even though things were going so well, he suddenly cut off all contact with me. Strange as that was, I later heard through some prattling lawyer that our engagement had been unilaterally cancelled. To make it even worse, the lawyer was one of the Samazakis. It's totally ridiculous, so I yelled at him and demanded compensation. But then out of nowhere, he threatened to peacefully end things by telling that bastard Tetsu about it. Damn it! Shit, fuck this shit. It's not like I even care about Tetsu anyway. He's a loud, dim-witted guy who refuses to do any work. Even though he was hardly doing anything this time, he's obsessed with taking a share. So when I started bringing in money from that Ryukyu guy, I decided it was time to cut him off. That good-for-nothing bastard was supposed to foot the bill for my apartment. I smashed the whiskey bottle in my hand against a telephone pole, burst of rage. The glass bottle let out a flashy sound as it shattered, then drenched the surrounding area in a characteristically rich odour of whiskey. What a waste. There was quite a bit left, but I'd already wasted it. So I couldn't help but be annoyed when I thought that this was my only substitute for my retirement money. All of a sudden I got a transfer note. I was hoping to rob the treasury funds from the Samazakis. After careful planning, we succeeded in obtaining a copy of the key. With that, we should have been able to gain pretty much all the money. And everything was going fine until we snuck into the office. The plan failed because we couldn't get the money out of the main safe. The key to the safe room didn't work. Unbelievable. With all that planning, we were mere tiger cubs. They found us would be slaughtered as easily as a normal cat. And of course the crew directed their anger at disappointment at the person responsible for getting the key. Me. Everyone started blaming one another, and in the end, the whole gang disbanded. But I can't stop feeling frustrated. Someone must have snitched the robbery plan to the general manager, Kasai, probably hoping to get a reward by throwing me under the bus. Of course, it goes without saying that I did my part to keep it secret. But Kasai lightly laughed at us, then spoke while pulling out a pistol. That's enough of this dog and pony show. Did you seriously think I didn't know about this? Even after I showed you the kindness to offer you a job? Now, get lost. And then the general manager had me transferred from the bar I'd been working at to some second-class bar. Of course, that bar was even cheaper and more bland than the previous one. And only the most miserly of customers would be caught there. Shit, god damn it! Thinking back on it pissed me off. Couldn't say anything with Kasai wielding a gun in plain view. I was scared shitless and ran away. It was shameful and mortifying, but I had no choice. Independent, rich life was hanging right in front of me, yet now I'm getting drunk in second-class stores. Damn it! Intense nausea fled up inside of me. Gross. A strange sensation suddenly came over me. What is this? Filth in front of me is the price of trying to escape this hideous life. What religion says that wanting to live above your position and find happiness is worthy of divine punishment? That's not right. What's wrong with wanting to be happy? I've nothing to show for it. How many times have women thought about selling themselves to go on living in this harsh world? So it's not my fault things ended up like this. The bad guys are the ones who drove me to this. Family, friends, associates, and other people like that. Why did I not have the bare minimum amount of luck to be blessed with people like that? Decided it's their fault. Shit. Suddenly I noticed a building that looked like a clinic in front of me. I'm in no mood to see Tetsu's annoying face. While thinking of that, I realised I'd been walking away from Okonomiya and had arrived in Hinamizawa. It's outside of business hours, so naturally the inside of the clinic was dark. I could only vaguely make out the outline of the building in the darkness of the night, but I felt a chilly atmosphere and began lightly trembling. However, at the same time I had a thought. This might be the opportunity I was asking for. It's a clinic, so clearly it has doctors. They sell medicine at high prices, and they bring in plenty of money through medical insurance. I'm not sure how much income a rural clinic pulls in, but I'm sure it brings in more cash than the other bitches. Plus, it has that pale-faced weakling of a doctor, Hiryo. I've seen him in Okonomiya, driving an expensive sports car and wearing name-brand clothes. Just thinking it over for a moment, it's clear he has a decent salary from the, secret government people he works for, probably. If that's the case, then naturally this clinic must have some good money tucked away somewhere. I would be desperate if something happened. I know a clinic wouldn't have much security, and even if I'm arrested and sent to jail, I'll be out in just a few years as long as I keep quiet. And even if something goes wrong, I'm sure I can wake it out in Okonomiya until things cool down. More importantly, if things go well, I'll be able to score a lot of money, even if it's not as much as I would have gotten from the Sonozaki films. Nice idea. Oddly enough, it was totally different from the Sonozaki skit, since there was no risk of death. Considering the risk and rewards, it's clear what I should do. Nobody would think it's strange to do more than just idly sit by. Now then, I delicately crept towards the clinic and took a look around. It's a great idea to try and break into anything, even in rural backwoods, well, wasted. I'll have to pass on going towards the main entrance. Can't imagine they'd leave it unlocked. It'd be hard to pry it open without tools. In which case, the natural choice is to go through a window. They actually make for an unexpected blind spot. Air conditioning can sometimes make patients feel sick, so they regularly open and close windows for fresh air. It's pretty common to accidentally forget to lock one of the windows after opening them, leaving nothing but a screen in the way. Cautiously approached a window and pushed it to see if it was locked. One beside it, also no good. As I repeated that several more times, I started to think that surrounding houses were far enough away that I could just break the glass with a rug. But the moment I thought that, I found a window that opened without any resistance. Lucky me. I suddenly muttered that to myself while grabbing the window frame with both hands to pull my body up. Then I leaned my upper body forward to try and lift my legs. But in my drunken state, it didn't quite work and I fell into the room. Damn it. I started swearing without thinking, but then quickly began grinning. My body ached all over and I may have actually hurt something, but I was in a great mood, so I didn't care at all. Sort of being drunk will do to you. I have a brilliant story about that, which is, I think it must have been I want to say maybe spring, summer 2019. Really can't remember, although it may have been a bit later. Anyway, I hurt my back and twisted both my ankles in fairly rapid succession. The back was because I got a cough. Well, I had a cold and I coughed so badly that I think I pulled a muscle in my back, which has never really recovered and sometimes still plays up now. Regardless of whether or not I've been coughing, I think it's more of a posture thing than anything else. The first ankle I rolled because, or hurt, however I hurt it, sprained, whatever I did, because I had come out of the train station and it was in the rain and I was trying to work out what bus I should take home, and I fell off the curb and completely fucked up my ankle. Luckily, I was just outside a chemist, so a super drug if you're in the UK and you know that brand. So I hobbled in there, got the strappy thing, and I was trying to work out how I was going to sit down, put it on, and then get up and put my shoe back on. And the guy behind the counter was like, "Do you want to just take my chair?" So I just borrowed it from him for a moment to put it on, which is fine. And then not long after that, I think the first ankle had started to heal by that point. I was at a friend's place. We'd been drinking, and we went back to her place to have a couple more drinks and just chill. And I was thinking of possibly sleeping on the sofa. And we went out to let the dog out. The dog is a little miniature Dachshund who has back problems, so they have a ramp for the dog to go down to help with the back problems. And I was drunk and it was also raining, so I fell off that ramp, twisted my other ankle. Luckily for me, I was so drunk that I did not feel pain. So I fell asleep on the sofa, woke up, headed home as I usually do. Like, traditionally, if I'm drunk, I will fall asleep, sober up, wake up a few hours later, and if I'm out, I will usually, but not always, head home. Depends. Anyway, headed home. I think I may have walked home or I may have got an Uber, I can't remember. Either way, I got home, made it all the way up to my second story apartment. Did not realise until the next morning when I woke up properly that I'd hurt my ankle. And I realised by trying to get out of bed and properly collapsing. And that's my fun story about being drunk and injuring myself and all the various ways that I messed up my body. Maybe it was 20. I can't remember anyway. It's just that always stands out to me, especially with a back problem, because for a while, the problem with my back wound up being that if I was in one position for too long, if I stood up, my back would seize up. And so this would be if I was standing or if I'd been sitting, my anything like that, my back would seize up. It would make moving really hard, including if I was standing up for too long. And then I hurt my ankle, so I was constantly like leaning on one leg with the other, like no pressure on it. And everyone in the office was like, "We're just going to come to you. No more calling you to someone else's office. If you need a problem, we'll come to your desk." Because I was like, I can't move. I think that may have been around the time one of my co-workers was pregnant, because all three of us who were upstairs had various problems, but my co-worker was pregnant. I'd either fucked up my ankle and or my back, and one of my other co-workers had recently had surgery on her shoulder, which meant she couldn't carry anything that was too heavy. Anyway, fun reminiscing at my old office. Where do they keep their treasure? Stingy. I finally found a coin purse in one of the desk drawers and stuffed it in my pocket while kicking a chair in frustration. Made a dull sound as it slid into the corner of the room, hit the wall and fell over. I spent what seemed like hours looking through some sort of doctor's office, and all I had to show for it was a coin purse with a few 10 and 100 yen coins. I also wasn't satisfied. The money would be gone after just 2 days of eating and drinking top. After all the trouble of sneaking in here, this is all I had to show for it. I opened the door and stepped out to the hallway. With nothing but the dim glow of the security light, I could see a few other doors leading to rooms. My intuition told me that among them, the door at the end of the hallway had the most obvious signs of money. Trusting that hunch, I put my hands on the knob, turned, and pulled. The door gently opened, and inside I found a staircase leading to the second floor, with a mountain of cardboard boxes packed beside it. What's in the boxes? When I picked one up to look inside, I noticed a staircase leading to the basement behind, hidden in the shadows, nearly impossible to notice at first glance. This is looking more and more suspicious. I felt no fear as I descended into the creepy darkness, my head held high. I carefully crept down the stairs, one step at a time. What is this? Shocked. Surprisingly enough, the basement was just as large as the first floor above, and there were several rooms with the same layout as the first floor. The area clinic has 2 floors and many rooms. Plus, there's plenty of open land around it. It seemed like it required building a basement for additional rooms. And yet, choosing to build these rooms underground instead of expanding normally means that they must be used to hide something important. With that understanding, I put my hands on the doorknob leading to the front room and felt exhilarated as I opened it. I grimaced at the nasty stench of chemicals as soon as the door opened, but when I peered into the dimly lit room, what I saw was... What? There were shelves packed with tons of specimens and glass tubes. It was a huge aquarium, big enough to fit a human or even a hippo inside. And it was connected to a machine that seemed to be monitoring it or recording data. It was a complex machine like an oscilloscope, periodically making electronic sounds. No, looking closer, there were many cylinders set up inside the tank. I looked more carefully, trying to figure out what was inside, and gasped. It was a human brain and spinal cord? Nice. Wait, is that real? And then at last, I finally realised I'd come to a completely outrageous place. Completely outrageous place. All the blood in my body froze over like it had turned into sherbet, and it filled me with an awful feeling as it rushed through me. I was still feeling drunk just a moment ago, but it vanished in an instant. Run away. Get out of here now. Thinking that, I quickly took a step back, but I brushed against something sitting on the desk. And it fell to the ground. It let out a dull sound as it landed by my feet, but my eyes opened wide the minute I saw it. Oops. It was a handgun. Clearly not the type used by gangsters. It's a military-grade weapon. What is that doing in a place like this? Oh dear, it's you. I came here wondering what sort of mouse snuck in. How disappointing. It's been a while since I've done my Takano voice. I got it back in. I caught my breath and quickly looked back. A woman dressed in a nurse's outfit was standing there. I'd seen her before, sure. Right, that's Takano. Right, she's the nurse that works at the clinic, Takano. Once put forth a mouse, but it was actually a nasty rat. You tried to swim because it looked fun, but you ended up in the mud. The Takano remained completely calm and firmly glared at me as she slowly approached, one step at a time. She greeted me with a kind smile and gentle demeanour, but she didn't drop her guard for a moment. And most of all, I couldn't see any emotion in her eyes, illuminated by this dimly lit room. They were cold as balls of glass, and they firmly stared straight ahead, not veering away for even an instant. That's not human. No, those eyes are not of a human being. Stop! Don't come any closer. Feeling desperate, I reached for the military handgun that fell by my feet and aimed it at the nurse right in front of me. My hands were lightly shaking, but I gripped tight in both hands and threatened her with my finger on the trigger. Oh dear, that's quite a frightening thing you've got there. When Takano saw that, Her eyes opened wide like she was surprised, and she stopped approaching. And yet, her smile widened into a grin. The more she smiled, the more her eyes, her mouth, and the entire atmosphere of the room grew threatening. Grew more wicked. That absolute terror dominated my entire mind and body. It was like standing before a demon. Every one of these labs is a very important facility. No expense was spared to fill them with lavish, modern science and technology. By the way, that tank behind you is one of the most expensive editions. It's like a ritual altar to the gods, for praying to deepen human wisdom. Ritual to the gods? Yes, that's right. Unfortunately, those who can't even endure a human life will never receive the full power of the gods, and open the way to Shangri-La. There is no discrimination, hate, or suffering, and people are free to continue indulging their desires for all eternity. Doesn't that sound like an ideal world? Takano paid no heed to the gun pointed straight at her, but instead opened her arms wide and started talking while euphorically gazing up at the ceiling. And the gibberish she spoke was both creepy and horrifying. Shut up. I'm not listening. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, how disappointing. I thought I put a lot of effort into that bedtime story. Of being judged in the afterlife. What? The next moment, Takano quickly pulled a handgun from behind her back and fired. Then I fell to the ground on the spot. Something hot and slimy came oozing out of my right shoulder, non-stop, and I felt my consciousness quickly fading. Damn it! That's no good. Did nobody teach you to fire the moment you have a shot? Well, that gun wasn't even loaded, so I guess this would have ended the same way regardless. She casually pulled her hair back while looking down at me, writhing and echoing. She seemed to be enjoying herself. And then she brought her face with that warped smile close to me, and blew warm breath into my ear as she spoke in a cool, calm, and inorganic voice. Genuinely, despite being the villain, Takano I think is also one of the most interesting characters in this game because she's really well written, and I like her as a character who will sort of stop at nothing to get what she wants, but at the same time is so tunnel vision that she doesn't notice that, like, there's a point where her like little militia start working against her because they're fed up of all her stupid orders and the fact that she's sort of doesn't really understand how things work, inverted commas, and she's so like one-track mind, she just doesn't have the concept of that. She spoke in a cool, calm, and inorganic voice. This took great effort, so please enjoy it. The truth is, I'm in the middle of researching a lovely new drug. An ultimate weapon, even beyond your wildest dreams. Doesn't that sound wonderful? That was the last thing I heard in this world as a human. Question mark? Suddenly, her eyes opened wide, her whole body lost its strength, and she fainted. Foam came erupting from her mouth, and her expression looked ridiculous, like something you'd see in a manga. Yeah, I wasn't done talking yet. At least I got a nice sample before the experiment. Just then I sensed someone behind me and turned back. A man with a dignified-looking face and dressed in a military uniform, standing at the entrance to the room, with a mysterious expression. Zokunoki, the commander of the mountain dogs that guard this institute, who effectively worked directly for me. How weak is our security system? Is it not working properly? For the time being, I'd say it's working as intended. The infrared and sound wave-based intruder detection systems are still transmitting back to the station. Everything's normal. However, the systems are all centrally managed, so that may present a fatal flaw in intruder prevention. What do you mean by that? Sure, the backbone of the system goes down, then everything goes with it. Although it takes a code from someone ranked major or higher to disengage the system. So you're saying if the director or I wanted to roll this place, we'd be able to get past it easily? Then maybe the next time I'll be the bird or snake, sneaking in. Okanogi shrugged his shoulders and laughed at my joke. Then he looked down at the idiotic female rat lying by my feet. But is this going to be alright? It's not a problem. This woman was apparently trying to steal treasury funds from the Samazaki group. The police will assume they were the ones who disposed of her. Well, she did manage to sneak in, but I guess her luck ran out. Okanogi lightly kicked her head with his toe as she said that. The level of shock wasn't enough to wake her. You could tell that she was still faintly breathing. Right then, let's begin at the planned location. The test subject will be properly administered prophylactic drugs. Things get mixed up, it'll be no laughing matter. Spooky. On his way back after a short rest in the break room, Wishy suddenly noticed a family coming in through the public entrance. Needless to say, one of them was a man he knew very well. It was Akasaka, your friend and mine. My goodness, it's Akasaka, and you brought your family. Welcome, please come in. Oh, Mr. Oishi. Thanks, I just got here. Hello, Uncle Oishi. The woman next to Akasaka was probably his wife, and the girl between them was their daughter, Miyuki. It was very important later. He was jumping up and down while waving at Oishi with a big smile on her face. He started to wonder what it would be like to have grandchildren, and as he did, he responded with a suitable smile of his own. Oh, Miyuki, so you remember me? I'm so happy to hear it. It's because Uncle Oishi is nice, just like Mama's uncle. Right, Mama? How now, Miyuki? This is a dear friend of Papa's, so treat him with respect. Sorry, you've done a lot for her these past few days. The woman lightly reproached Miyuki beside her, then bowed her head to Oishi. The surrounding staff members were all turning around to see the woman exuding the lovely atmosphere. There's no problem at all. So, you must be Akasaka's wife? Very nice to meet you. I'm Oishi. Yes, I'm Miss Akasaka's wife. Apologies for the late greeting. I've heard a lot about you. Still, after finally getting the chance to meet you, you're completely different. Your daughter is so adorable, I figured her mother would be a beautiful lady. But you're far beyond my wildest imagination. By any chance do you do modeling back in Tokyo? Not at all. You'd never do a job like that. Oishi, please stop trying to seduce my wife. How many women have you used that line on anyway? It's no exaggeration. I meant that sincerely. Oishi and Rika together gang up on Akasaka. No, Akasaka, I'm quite jealous. If she didn't have such a handsome husband in you, I'd be down at the shrine tonight, nailing up straw dolls. Oishi's stomach shook as he said that with a smile. Akasaka was smiling back, as he trusted him with all his heart. Meanwhile, Yukie gently tugged at her husband's sleeve and gently tilted her head to give him a signal. Akasaka gave her a nod in response and urged her to step back. Sorry to bother you in the middle of the workday. I was actually planning to come here alone, but my wife wanted to say hello. To me? Yes. I helped my husband when he was in a dangerous situation 5 years ago. Honestly, thank you so much. But I've never had an opportunity to meet you, so I'm extremely late in offering my thanks. Don't mention it. All in the line of duty as a detective. Never forget that your life is borrowed, so it's common courtesy to pay for what you've been given. Please, don't worry about it. It's 5 years ago, when the Minister of Construction's grandson was kidnapped. Akasaka found himself in a tight situation while wrestling the kidnapper, but he was able to escape with Okanogi's help. And all of a sudden, he realized. Back then, his daughter was still in his waist. Thinking about that, I wish he felt really glad that he could help Akasaka back. At the very least, he would never have been able to meet Akasaka's smiling wife and daughter here if something had happened to him back then. Sorry, it's about time to get going. Pardon me, Oishi, we'll just have to catch up later. That's not what I was getting at. Right, dear? Why don't we head to the inn ahead of you? Huh? I'm sure you and Mr. Oishi have plenty of stories to share, right? Isn't that a nice thing to do when you have see someone important for the first time in ages? Miyuki and I will head to the hospital, so feel free to take your time. What are you talking about? This is a family vacation. Can't do that. That's right, she's your wife. I wouldn't want to come between you and your family. Lecturer's sending me notifications at 11 o'clock at night. Please, don't worry about her. No, it's fine. He's always talking about you back home, Oishi. I was really looking forward to see you today. Off. So I apologise for making such a burdensome request for such a busy person, but would you mind spending a little time with my husband? Can? You guys, it's alright. I checked the map in front of the station and it doesn't take long to take the train. So please, go right ahead. Yukie. Indeed, they worked far apart. They didn't have many opportunities to chat. After seeing how excitedly the two of them were talking, she decided it would be best to allow it. That may very well have been the reason she was investigating the train routes in the first place. Wrong button. Close. Truly a dedicated wife. Oishi felt a sense of admiration as he warmly watched the interaction between the two of them. Huh? Papa, you're not coming to the hot spring? You and I will go together. But Miyuki, you've been spending plenty of time with Papa recently, haven't you? Plus, he's tired from all his work, so let him have a little rest. Miyuki, don't you think you'll have fun at the hot springs with Mama? No, no way. Miyuki loves having Papa and Mama together. In reality, Akasaka himself thought it would be dealt off Oishi nothing more than a great greeting. But he came here for the sake of his family. He was thankful for all they'd done for him. He felt sorry. Thank you, ma'am. You're so considerate of Akasaka. Then, today, let's go all out and drink the night away. Oishi let out a cheerful laugh and gave Akasaka a pat on the back in an effort to ease his hesitation. In response to that, he came to a decision and responded with a huge nod. Indeed. I'm sorry, Yukie. I'll take advantage of your kindness just for tonight. Of course, don't worry about it. You can go back tomorrow morning, so feel free to take your time. Just not at one of those shops with the young ladies. Right. But even though she had a smile on her face at the end there, her eyes weren't smiling at all. Oof. Don't you dare ruin my image of Akasaka as an upstanding, good young man. I realise that you're an idiot who can't spell. Boy, you sure can drink now, Akasaka. Don't think I can keep up with you. Must be true that when one gets old, he can't drink as much as before. You're too modest. I'm just better because an intelligence officer has to be able to hold his liquor. I have a budget set aside at all times for training with my young colleagues. Japanese sake, Western liquor, Chinese liquor, whatever. Sometimes at little bars and sometimes at expensive clubs. Sounds pretty good. I'll have to join you to coach them sometime. Yes. Please come, teach us your tricks. Young guys nowadays often talk about how they can't drink. You can drink at all at first, you know. The more you drink, the better your body adjusts to alcohol, and the more you enjoy drinking. Actually, so speaking of this, when I was in Nottingham and going out, not on the reg, but regularly enough, I had a pretty good alcohol tolerance, better than expected, like as long as I ate properly. And then I didn't drink as much during lockdown. Just, like, I have no problem with drinking at home. I do it, you know, I was gonna say all the time, which is not true. You know, I don't have a problem with drinking at home, I just didn't drink as much. And then recently I went out with some friends and was drinking, and I had one bottle of wine and I was like, holy shit, my tolerance has gone down. That's right. You listening, Kuma? Yeah, I heard. Can down quite a few more down. No, really, you're right. When you first teamed up with Oishi, you were already drinking oolong tea with a toast. That's no good. Toasts are very important. If you don't drink any alcohol, you're saying you're not satisfied with the party. So when I see young people act like that, I tell them, I'm not saying that you have to drink out of one gulp, but your first round has to at least be a medium mug. When Akasaka first came to Okuniya, he was very nervous. There was no trace of that tension left in him. Seeing that, I wish you realised just how much he'd learned in the last few years. There you go, Akasaka. Man, you've really grown a lot more dependable. During the years I've been waiting to retire, you've grown so much. Might be time for the younger generation to take over, huh? That's not true. There's one thing I've learned, it's that the only thing that matters is experience. Leave the hard labour and the crime scenes to us young officers, while you veterans take pride at your desks and work us to the bone. Did you hear that, Kuma? Did you? Okay, I heard him. I'll give it everything I've got. Or Kuma. Haha. Kuma guy is already giving everything he's got. He's diligent about his patrols to make up for your distaste for them. You know how Oishi is, right? I've only worked with him for a few days, but I understand what you're going through. Even so, he'll make you into a good cop. Just believe in him. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. But even if I learn how to drink, I can't learn how to be good at mahjong. Wish he takes all of my pay before I can give it to my wife. Mahjong is intellectual baggage you need. The more you play, the more confident you get. Let's play together later. I'll teach you how not to lose. Higurashi, he's a good guy, huh? Kind of reminds me of how you went when you were young. Ah, that can't be. I wasn't nearly as handsome. It was unusual for Oishi to enjoy anyone's company this much. Akasaka and Oishi only worked together for a few days. They'd exchanged some holiday cards and that was about it. Oishi had no idea how happy it would make him to see such a greenhorn grow into a dependable cop. Being a fool. Oishi always thought he wanted to be active until the day he retired, but after seeing such a dependable colleague, he began to think that maybe it was time for him to step down. Oishi and Akasaka enjoyed the reunion more than they thought they would. The owner of the place was bringing the electric sign inside. All the chairs were up on the tables and the owner's wife was cleaning the floor. There was nobody else around. Judging by the clock, it was almost 3 a.m. This is a reunion, right, Kura? Take your time, okay? Just wake me up when you leave so I can lock the door. Sorry about this. Thank you. There wouldn't be anything else open at such a late hour. Oishi and his colleagues still wanted to talk, so they decided to stay. Kumagai couldn't fight his sleepiness and was nodding off. They were talking about Akasaka's job. Akasaka works at a department specializing in public safety. Oishi and the others were interested in all his stories of danger and bravery. Anyway, I want to meet with Rika Furude. We mentioned something about that earlier. What might you need from the orphan daughter of the Furude family? What happened to her parents? Rika Furude had predicted there would be an incident in Hinamizawa every year for the following 5 years. Her parents, according to her, were supposed to be killed in the 3rd year. Yeah, it was the 3rd year of the Curse of Oyashiro-san. And 1981 it must have been. The Furude couple died rather suspiciously. Just 3 years after you came to Hinamizawa, Akasaka. 3 years? Did it happen in June? 3 years after I visited? Yeah, that's about right. Why? Is there something about it that bothers you? Akasaka shut his eyes tightly to chase away the alcohol in his brain, tried to remember the girl's prediction. Nice, 1 minute 20 in and my throat really hurts. Parcel is not due to deliver till next Monday. He had, after all, come here to confirm it. Let's see. I came here in 1978. What about the dam construction site manager? Oh, that's the guy I played mahjong with. What's he been doing? It was in the newspaper, I think. Maybe it was just the local ones. Well, he was killed in a fight with the other workers then. After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body will be torn apart, disposed of. See, related? See, you know about it already. That's exactly it. His right arm is still missing, too. So unfortunate. The following year, on the same day in June 1980, Satoko's parents will be pushed to their deaths. Maybe it should be called an accident. A lamentable accident. Continue. The following year, after the manager's death. See, I know. Satoko, I think she's a little hiccup girl. Did her parents die in an accident? How much you already know. That's right. The dam supporters, the Hojo couple, fell off a cliff while on vacation. Though it still hasn't been confirmed if it was an accident or an incident. The following year, on the same day, in June 1981, my parents will be killed. The following year, yes, Rika Furude's parents died. But none of those incidents make sense. You sure know a lot about the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. Sorry, a minute. Moment to check. trying to work out if there was a chance I'd still be playing this next year. Do a special stream on June 21st, both my birthday and a key date in this game. Maybe by then the last chapter that I really want to play will have been translated, or maybe we'll be lucky and we'll have got Hinamizawa Bupstop and the other ones. Conclusion. None of those incidents were made public because of pressure from the locals, so I'm surprised at how much you know about them. I can't believe this. But even you can't know about the following year, because starting with the 4th year in the row, we decided to investigate secretly. I think I know about it anyway. The following year, on the same day, in June 1982, Satoko's Mina will die. Her head will be smashed in. The following year, so that was last year, Satoko from earlier, wasn't her aunt beaten to death? You're right. Akasaka, how do you know so much? I think I know who will be killed the year after that. What are you saying? Besides, the year after last year means this year. I'll be killed. It'll be in June of 1983. This month. Rika Furude will be killed. Oishi and the others were at a loss for words. Akasaka had talked about the full mysterious incident. Although he'd been far away, he belonged to a very special unit of public safety. It could have been possible for him to find out about the secret investigations. That's why it wasn't that odd for him to mention the series of mysterious deaths, even though he'd been far away from Hinamizawa. However, not only did he know about them, but he also named the next victim. Oishi and his co-workers had sobered up entirely. Akasaka, it's getting late. We're all exhausted, so let me get to the bottom of this. What is it that you're trying to say? Just had a flashback of potentially running through the scene, and anyway. Okay. All of this is what she told me when I was in Hinamizawa in June of 1978. What? I wish he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was left speechless. I know it's hard to believe. When she told me back then, I thought she was being a mischievous little girl. But she told me she was going to be killed in her 5th year round. In other words, she asked me to help her, I think. In which case, I absolutely do want to make certain of it. Even now, she still needs my help. After hearing Akasaka say that, Oishi and the others fell silent and couldn't say anything. It was a completely implausible story, but Akasaka didn't appear to be drunk, and the look on his face made it clear that he wasn't joking around. So, after exhaling a huge, heavy breath that had been accumulating in his chest, Oishi turned his body towards Akasaka. Akasaka, I'm retiring this year. I want to take revenge on the people who killed the manager in the 1st year. Jump on any lead I can find. So let me just confirm this with you. What you just said isn't a joke, is it? If it is, you'd better tell me right now. I'm telling you the truth. Rika Furude told me this in June 1978. But at the time I didn't think anything of it, so I didn't tell you about it. Very sorry. No, you didn't know. Even if you told me, I don't think I would have believed you. Only because it happened 4 years in a row do we believe you now. Oishi must have been thinking that if only Akasaka had told him back then, he could have saved his friend. What the old man from forensics just said was right too. Oishi wouldn't have believed him back then. And his friend would have died anyway, and Oishi would have been left at regret and not being able to do anything. The eternal curse of being able to predict stuff, I suppose. That's true. I should be the one apologising. Still, Rika Furude. Why Rika? I don't know exactly what's going on in Hinamizawa right now. Read in the papers the dam construction plan was halted indefinitely. That's why I assumed it was peaceful now. The dam conflict is over, yeah, but starting the following year, these mysterious deaths known locally as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama started to occur annually. It played out just like you said. Please entrust me with something extremely important. Oishi, let me ask you, do you think it's possible for Rika to be killed this year? They say that the Furude couple was held in no regard for being so passive during the dam conflict. That might be the reason why the curse fell upon them in the 3rd year. So I do think that Rika Furude's death. It's possible, isn't it? Oishi nodded slowly. I'm going to try and get in contact with Rika Furude tomorrow. I'll have to apologise to Yuki and Yuki. I think the best thing to do is talk to her directly. Saka, what you say is true. Why not let me handle it? It's not that I don't want your help, but what Rika Furude said is important to me. My, you come bearing quite the incredible gift. I'm getting a bit intrigued myself. Never thought I'd see the day when all the mysteries were solved. Well, I have some questions too. For instance, why did she tell me something that important? She wanted help, why didn't she ask the local police? Why me, a guy on a business trip from Tokyo? I bet she doesn't have faith in the local. I'm a little unrefined. Rika probably doesn't trust me. Besides, there are people with connections to the Sonozaki family at the Okonomiya building. In other words, she trusted me, the guy who came from Tokyo, more than anyone. Yes, that's the case, Higurashi. Please don't tell anyone else about it. Of course I won't. Anyway, you're planning to catch up with Rika tomorrow in Hinamizawa? We can start from there. So, I'm still worried, because the name of the next chapter is Safe Satoko, which I don't know if this chapter let's go. Let's see. See if I can do the basic maths. Not entirely sure if I'll be able to get through 5 chapters today, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway. Keiichi, you come up with some ridiculous ideas. That was the first thing Shion said after looking through my carefully written plan. It was hard to tell if she was feeling bewildered or impressed, but for now her shock was enough to make me feel at least a little satisfied. From what little I heard over the phone last night, I assume you were just tired and sleep-talking. No way, you were serious? By the way, your handwriting is atrocious. It's not relevant. What's this about sleep-talking? Just what do you think? It got thinking me deep down inside. You really want to know? No, I don't. I heard it, I'd probably have to spend a while re-evaluating the significance of my existence. And as if to prove that point, she let out an audible as losing the opportunity to tease me. On the other hand, the store manager, Yoshiro, was standing next to her with a serious look on his face as he read through my plan. The shop is managed by a member of the Sonozaki family, Mion and Shion's uncle. Anyway, this is going to be pretty tough, isn't it? Even if it's going to be done at a smaller branch store level. You sure it'll be okay? Yes. I already brought that point up with someone familiar with the subject in the neighbourhood association. I puffed my chest out as I said that. In reality, it was thanks to Mion acting as a mediator that a kid like me was able to talk to anyone, but I put enough care into it that I felt confident. I proposed another addition to the Watanagashi Festival, to go alongside the bargain auction. And that is the Angel Mall branch store. In other words, we're going to have a remote Angel Mall location offering something different from the typical yakisoba, candy apples, and shooting gallery festival store. Ichi, you understand, right? Festival stores are supposed to be traditional Japanese in style. We show up there in our chic outfits, elderly people are going to turn their heads and start having nosebleeds. You realise that, don't you? She leaned back to show the chest of her costume as she said that. Well, I never decided that tons of exposure was chic. And here, born after the Taisho era, uses the word chic. Anyway, I tried to cut her off by focusing my attention on the store manager in front. It'll have a huge impact on the elderly folks, huh? This store is mostly aimed at school kids and enthusiasts, so these elder villagers rarely have a chance to see the young girls in costumes like these. Please don't be so quick to say something so problematic. Since it's a festival, you just have to wear a traditional festival coat over your uniform. That way you can pitch it as something educational for those hard-headed adults. If you want to see the rest, head to the main store. It doubles as an advertising. Well, that's dirty. At the very least, call it strategy. Besides, this is something I came up with during the engagement fiasco. Maybe I should say I've been considering it since I saw my classmates joyfully cheering at the Angel Mall cakes during my inauguration as class rep. Surprisingly enough, aside from a few courageous lads like Daiki, Suguru, and Kameda, most of the kids have never even heard of Angel Mall, much less eaten their cake. There's one particular reason for that. Ironically enough, Intramore's biggest selling point is the uniforms. As a result, the customer base is densely dominated by male customers, which creates an atmosphere where female customers, housewives in particular, would turn their wallets away. And as a result, ordinary children never have the opportunity to taste of the cakes in the store. Well, that's true. Sure, they'll become addicted once they step inside, but it might be a high hurdle to convince them to bring their families. Hurdle? It's more on the level of the high jump or the pole vault, but I do think it's a great opportunity to get them to know Angel more. What do you say? Indeed. Our current revenue is fine enough as it is, but after all, this is a shop selling sweets. We definitely want kids and young ladies eating. Your tone got a lot stronger in the second half of that. Oh my, even though I only started the shop as a personal hobby, managed to achieve my goal of finding a workplace surrounded by young gals. Gross. What about that is human nature? Why are there so many men around me fixated on this desire? Very well then. Can't say I'm not interested myself. In which case here, take this. It's a written estimate for the cost of the goods and services rented. Shion unfolded the handwritten budget as she said that, spread it out on the table in front of me. I wanted to ask if she was the one sleep-talking this time. This is Mion's sister after all, so I'm sure she's not being completely honest. I mean, it's awfully expensive for cake. Considering the cost of materials, do you really sell at that price? What's that? You want to play hardball? Considering the labour costs and the price of costume maintenance, it's bound to be more expensive than your average store. You studied up on all this. And on top of that, you have to consider the cleaning costs after the rampage you and the others went on, and the repair costs for the toilets you broke. Sorry about that. I went too far that time. I'll reflect on that. Seriously, she's so persistent. She has the personality of someone pounding out rice cakes. I've heard that heroic story, you know. Shion was completely ecstatic when she told me about it. Come on, Uncle. Don't go saying things that don't need to be said. Shion's face turned red as she jabbed her elbow into the store manager's side. Well, I'm sure it must have been a pain, but if Shion's talking to people about it like it's something fun, it can't be that bad, right? Oh, but Keiichi, there's one more thing to consider. The most basic rule of food stores is that you need to be able to eat while walking. It's difficult to use forks and plates while moving around, and if we provide disposable flatware, it'll increase our costs even more, right? Can't you handle it the same way they do with yakisoba and takoyaki? Just use disposable chopsticks and cheap packaging. No way. Think it through, Keiichi. Do you think nearby onlookers will think the cake looks delicious if they see people eating it with chopsticks? It's true. We look out of place and it seemed like a sad sight. But she had made a valid point when she said plastic forks and paper plates would be too expensive. Oh, then what if we wrapped the cake in a crepe? Then they can eat it with their hands without making a mess. Plus, it won't leave behind any garbage. Oh my god, that sounds so good. Ugh, pancake wrap cake. Me. Hey. Shiona and I turned towards the voice coming from close by. Several waitresses had gathered beside our table at some point. I'm sorry for interrupting, but we're going to be participating in this too, so shouldn't we help contribute ideas? Oh, it's fine. Thank you for the help, but don't you have work to be doing? Look who's talking. We're on break at the moment, and if you don't mind, we'd like to discuss even more about what we can contribute after closing time. What do you say, boss? You're really okay with that? You want to help out even though we only have 3 days to prepare? Yeah. Sounds like fun. Like a school cultural festival. Plus, we're doing it for the Sonozaki sweetheart. Right, everyone? Waitresses all smiled and nodded to one. Shion immediately turned so bright red it looked like she was steaming. What for? Who's sweetheart? You're thinking of my sister, Filthy Sonozaki. I'm the pretty Sonozaki. Mibara, you're a brave man to be balancing the scales between both Sonozaki sisters. Feel free to fight Akane to claim total victory. Wow. Impossible. There is not a man on this earth who could beat Akane, in my opinion, as one of the coolest and most badass characters in this entire video game series. No thanks. The store manager hit me with a full-strength pat on the back and went into a fit of laughter as soon as he heard that. Then the tension stopped for a moment as the waitresses all started arbitrarily gazing at me in excitement. Alright, everyone's going to contribute. Let's make the future of Angel Mora at Watanagashi as exciting as possible. If sales break the festival record, I'll even throw in a special bonus. Wahoo! And whoever makes the most sales get to go out to dinner with me. No thanks. Always so strong-minded, huh? That's what I expected from our waitresses. It's not just strong-minded, it's bold. These cute-faced waitresses were merciless. Suppose they'd probably have to be. Alright, Shion, let me give this back to you. After we finished our discussion, and the store manager had to leave for a meeting in town, I pulled out Takano's scrapbook and set it on the table in front of her. So you already read it? So how was it? What did you think? Well, should I say it's nonsense? It's a totally ridiculous book. Man, those desserts look so good. All of these ones, I'm pointing with my mouse, which is not turned. They, like, buffet ones with the cream look like they'd make me feel sick, as does the strawberry. That, depending on what it's made of, looks delicious. That looks really good. That, again, depending on what it's made of, and this as well. Really depends. Like, if it's the actual cake with icing, it would be fine, but if that's like a layer of fluffy ice cream, I wouldn't be able to do it. To be honest, I don't think I gained much from reading it. Most of the article clippings and notes inside were speculation or unfounded fabrication. The actual son is an alien, controlling the villagers by spreading a virus, and the Furude family is worshipped with the support of the Miyoshi and Sonozaki families, while also cursing the non-believers. What is this? I can't understand the reasoning behind these conclusions. I feel the same way. I gave it a bit of a look too, but well, it seemed like it was written from an irresponsible point of view, so it fell apart halfway through. The stuff about using humans as test subjects for virus research sounded like something from an amusing occult magazine, despite being the only valid fact. Shion, what do you think about the curse? What do you mean? Do you have something to say about it? I told Shion's the deductions I explained to Rika about the curse the other day. I wanted to know what she thought about the incident with the Furude family 2 years ago. To get right to the point, I think there's absolutely no chance the Sonozaki family was involved. Shion arrived at that conclusion quickly. It was amazed she was able to give such a decisive answer without any hesitation. First problem, the goal is to strengthen faith and worship. There's no reason for the Sonozaki family to eliminate the Furude family. Second problem, considering the power they had 5 years ago during the Dam Project, it's unthinkable to imagine they could enact a conspiracy to alert people away from the Furude family. Finally, the third problem, by investigating the death of the Furude family, police could be able to uncover some of the dark history that pertains to the Sonozaki family. Based on those 3 points, I can safely conclude the Sonozaki family would not act against the Furude family. Shion shrugged her shoulders and said that she learned all that from talking with her sister. Truth is, the strength of the Sonozaki family has grown exponentially thanks to the theory of the curse, right? In which case, can you really say there's no merit to the idea? And that's true. But at the same time, it's made it harder for the Sonozaki family to leave. And recently, the Sonozaki family... This is a secret, okay? Where'd my lip balm go? That is... According to Sis, they're planning to completely transform the village, sometime in the near future, by constructing a highway nearby. But thanks to the curse, they can't reveal that to the public. If any kind of incident were to happen, people would immediately blame on the curse. In the worst case scenario, there's even a risk that the Sonozaki family could be seen as the second Hojo family. See, being persecuted by the villagers is the traitors that brought disaster to the village, huh? In a feudalistic society like this, it's simple for a tiny hoax or rumour to fundamentally alter your life. It took me ages, by the way, but I finally remembered that the element to this story that I was reminded of was the XYZ social medias. The second, the idea of like a fated cosmic destruction of a village, so feudalistic society like this, it's simple for a tiny hoax or rumour to fundamentally alter your life. In which case, whoever created the curse system doesn't want the circumstances in human society to change. And the villagers are unknowingly supporting them. Is that what you're saying? Right. Mr. Kano's theories are just crazy stories, but surprisingly enough, this series of events isn't a coincidence. They do seem to point towards that. Certainly. The more I listened to Shield, the more it seemed like the conspiracy wasn't a personal thing from Miyotsukushi. In which case, does that mean this Tokyo organization has some large-scale stake in it? By the way, there's something I noticed about Rika and,
Come on in, chap.
Come on in. Hello, nom nom. Thank you very much for the raid. It is very much appreciated. How are you? I hope you are doing well. You've had a good day. I hope you enjoyed just chatting. Hello friends from on stream who may not know me. It is I, Omote. I'm a variety streamer. At the moment I'm playing Miotsukushi Omote. Ooh, nice. I still need to watch the anime. I just haven't got around to it. Because I don't have time to watch things at the moment. University steals all time. except for streaming time. They said as if they don't laze around reading fic much more than they should. Yeah, we are in the middle of Miotsukushi Omote, which is the Hinamizawa focused version of Miotsukushi. And in the chapter Save Satoko, which has got me very concerned. Suddenly Shion leaned forward like she remembered something, then shut her mouth and looked to the side. Then, after making sure that the customers walking near our table continued passing by, she quietly continued. It's about Satoko and Rika. Eiichi, did you know that they're apparently going to the area clinic about once a week? This is the first I've heard of it. They're not feeling well? I heard from Satoko. They're apparently working there part-time to test some new medication. Coach is apparently collecting data whenever the drugs are administered. This has been going on for over 3 years now. She said that's how she's been able to afford her living expenses. Taking experimental drugs to cover living expenses. I always thought they were getting by with the help of Miyake and Yoshi. I mean, I participated in a medical trial in order to get a cheap flight home over summer. I've got my voucher for that, so instead of being like, okay, well, the main thing is I've got my my airplane vouchers. I used to work for the office that I used to work at was in this business park out of town, and we were opposite a medical research centre, and they had adverts on every single bus that went to and from the area. So you'd sit down, and the first thing you'd see would be like, take a week off work and get paid £2,000, and I'd be like, tempting though. But I don't count as healthy baseline, so I hope with making Yoshi. Anyway, what's this new drug? Rika did tell me she was cooperating with a coach to help them study Hinamizawa syndrome, but this is the first I heard about Satoko being involved. Plus, she sees Miyo Takano as an enemy, so why would she be cooperating? Have you told anyone else about this? Not yet. You're the only one, Keiichi. Then let's keep it that way for a little while. I don't want you to tell me on her. I have no problem with that. But are you really okay with that, brother-in-law? Do you think it's okay to keep secrets from your beloved wife, but share them with her little sister? Okay, take care. Have a good evening. Thank you. After stream, I will not be sleeping because I will be catching up on readings that I am behind on because I am forever and eternally behind on work this term. So have a good night. Secret from your beloved wife, but share them with a little sister. Why do you have to be like this? Just kidding, okay? Just then, the older waitress who suggested the crepe solution came walking over to our take from the coat closet. Oh, sorry, senpai. I'll get back to work in a sec. No, that's not why I'm here. There's a phone call for you, Sonozaki, from someone named Kasai. From Kasai? She dubiously tilted her head as soon as she heard that name. Then she said, sorry, be just a minute, and headed in the direction of the coat closet. Yeah, it's... For some reason this term, even though my class workload, I think it's the heat. My class workload this term is much lighter than it was last term, but I'm guessing because of the heat, I have much less desire to do my reading and do my work, and I've been getting assignments in on time, by which I mean 3 minutes before the deadline on time, so that's just how it be in this bitch of a world. It's about time to head out anyway. We're gathering for our Tanagashi planning meeting at the Frude Shrine in Grand Slater. We're discussing prospective plans for the food stalls, so maybe I should pay up and head out once Shion comes back. Keiichi, this is terrible. Just then, Shion came rushing back with a tense look on her face. Sensing that it was unusual, I had a bad feeling and stood up to prepare myself. Shion, what's wrong? Rina Mamiya was... Realizing how startled she was, Shion took 2 deep breaths to calm herself down and sort out entangled words and feelings. Then her face turned pale as she squeezed the words out. Rina Mamiya was apparently murdered. Her body was just discovered. What? I immediately gasped and couldn't breathe. Even though we put in so much effort to keep her alive and prevent Tepe from moving here from Okonomiya. Hey. Let me come right out and say the Sonozakis are not involved with it. Casso said he did threaten her. He was just planning to transfer her to another bar later. Shion was able to foresee my suspicions and spoke in a low voice, like she was giving me a stern reminder. Anna, more importantly, Keiichi, we need to focus on Satoko. Is Rika at home? No, there's Watanagashi planning meeting today, so she should be at the assembly hall. Do you know the phone number? Yes, I'll call right away. As soon as Shion said that, she rushed back towards the coat closet to me. There were quite a few customers still in the store, but she paid them no mind. Satoko. She would have been taken away? Excuse me. Uh-huh. Just then, a man walked over to me from the carrier line near the entrance. Then he regretfully looked at me while raising his hands to apologize for the rudeness and opened his mouth to ask a question. Now, did I hear you mention Rika? I don't know how to do Akasaka's voice and Keiichi's voice at the same time. This is a hashtag struggle. I was desperate. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't care about anything else, other than searching for her. Satoko! Satoko! I shouted desperately. Passers-by looked at me as though something was going on. The usual elderly people asked me if something was wrong, but I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to talk to them, so they just distastefully stared at me in confusion. Please, Satoko, you're there. Please answer me. My throat hurt. Mine too. My knees were sore from when I tripped and fell earlier, but more than that, my heart ached. Please, I'm begging you, please be safe. It was the worst possible timing. I was with her just before. I prayed from the bottom of my heart. I kept on praying, whether it was to God or not. Even in this world, I had a feeling. It was Satoko's turn to run errands, but just today I was hesitant to let her go. For some reason, I couldn't put it into words, but as I watched her prepare the shopping basket, a strange sense of anxiety emerged from within my heart. Feeling, I've experienced something similar in a previous world, when Teppei came back and took her away. Yes, I'm certain it was just like this. I did work with Keiichi and the others to think out the best way to keep Rina alive. Thanks to that, she was supposed to confirmed to still be alive on the day she was supposed to die, and even the day her corpse would have been discovered. There were only 3 days until Watanagashi. Even considering past examples, it shouldn't have happened at this point. And yet the premonition I hated most was coming true. And today, Satoko had a slight fever, like a summer cold, so I told her to rest. Satoko, I'll take your place for errands today, so you can stay home and rest. It's alright, Rika. My headache is already late enough, and I think I'll feel better after taking a stroll outside. You shouldn't overdo it. I'll go shopping after the meeting's over, so just stay home and behave yourself. Stop being such a worrywart, Rika. But Rika, you've been busy lately with meetings and practice every day. I can't force such a heavy burden on you. It's fine. Please don't worry about it. By the way, I recently discovered a means to distinguish broccoli and cauliflower. I'll buy the correct one this time, so you won't have to laugh at me. Looking forward to it. Oh. Satoko. Satoko grabbed a shopping basket without listening to my complaints, then left the room and headed downstairs. I was still worried, so I looked down from the window, saw her waving at me as she hopped on her bike. Shit. The mischievous innocence was amusing, so I suddenly hid outside while waving back at her, and the unpleasant feeling caught in my heart seemed to slightly dissipate as I watched her pedal on. I'm overthinking it. I must be feeling oversensitive because I'm thinking too hard about how to explain to Takano to Tomitake and Irie. Satoko was always safe by this point in time, so I should focus my attention on Takano and the others. With that in mind, I decided to get changed and head to the Watanagashi meeting. Idiot. You total idiot. Huge beads of sweat came dripping down my forehead. My breath was running at full speed, and I noticed the smell of blood in the back of my throat. I leaned forward and throttled my legs, trying to keep my breathing under control. My legs were trembling down to my feet from my lack of strength, but I wouldn't stop. It was after I got up during the meeting to go to the bathroom, and I was on my way back. Some of the elderly people were off in a corner, and I could hear them talking as I rubbed my hands together. Woman's corpse? That's what they say. It seemed she was an employee in the downtown area of Okamiya. She fell into the drainage canal behind the park. One of my favourite tips is when you first hear the report of that, and you have no idea how relevant it's going to be later. All you hear is that a body has been found in a drainage canal. It hasn't even been a full day, but they're saying she had mud clogged in her throat and she died of suffocation. They're saying she jumped in herself. What on earth was she thinking? After hearing that, all the blood in my body froze in an instant. I couldn't even move. It's like I stopped breathing. Something dark was spinning round and round, swelling inside my heart. I lost all the strength in my legs and immediately collapsed to the ground. Rika? You alright? Honestly, this is no place to be talking about things like that. We should really discuss this outside, you morons. Rika, are you alright? These meaningless rumours aren't something for youngsters to hear. The elderly people seem to think I was shocked to hear such a cruel story and rushed over to try and cheer me up. But their words didn't reach my ears. Why? Why is this happening again? Was I betrayed, even after discussing things with Kasai and Shannon? Or is this telling me that fate is predetermined? That's right, Satoko. When I came back to my senses, I used all my strength to stand up and leave the room. Then I looked at the security equipment above the shoe rack by the front door and shoved something in my pocket. And then I loosely threw my shoes on while sliding the front door open. Rika? I heard someone calling me from behind, but also was afraid to waste any more time dealing with it. So I left the assembly hall without looking back. I was wheezing and out of breath as my lungs and throat tightened up. Both my sides were in pain, like I was being squeezed by a vice. I no longer had the strength to wipe away my overflowing sweat, and my thin clothes were uncomfortably clinging to my body. Is it happening again? Could I not find an answer even after all that searching? Am I going to taste that same despair once again? I can't stand it anymore. Enough is enough. What's so fun about Satoko and I being thrown into despair? I'm sure she's already gone. I'm sure Tepe came out here to find her. She's already been taken away. Why didn't anyone help her? Why didn't anyone stop this? I've always thought this in previous worlds. Why does everyone in Hinamizawa have to treat Satoko Hojo so coldly? Satoko. My tired legs got tangled and I ungracefully fell to the ground. A housewife walking nearby approached me and offered to help, and I raised my head to look back at her. The housewife had a bewildered expression on her face. She looked down at me. Those hypocrites are always looking at me with sympathetic eyes. You have the time for this. Why don't you tell me where Satoko is? Can't you tell how desperately I've been searching for her? Considering how wide this space is, there's no way that anyone here couldn't have seen her. Is someone, anyone, tell me you saw Satoko. She's safe, if she's fine, someone protected her from Tepe. I'll dedicate my life to paying her back. Or even if that's not the case, if anyone here knows anything about Satoko, say something. I'm begging you. Rika? I looked up. It was a lady from the vegetable shop. She always served me, but not Satoko when she was alone. I don't like people like that. They completely change their attitude depending on who they're interacting with. And then the lady looked down at me with sympathetic eyes and spoke to me. Don't worry about her, Tepe Hojo. You've seen Satoko? I raised my feet and edged in closer to the lady. And when I saw the awkward look in her eyes, I was even more convinced. Tepe was here, right? Why? Why didn't you stop him? I'm terribly sorry. Really? I feel the need to apologize. Couldn't you have at least tried to hide her? Then I noticed. The vegetable shop behind the woman's back was a wreck. The shelves on the table where the vegetables were normally stacked were completely trashed. Some of the tomatoes were crushed and the road was stained red. Looked like for fewer vegetables than usual, so they were probably not open for business. I could see a lightly sealed cabbage in the cupboard boxes stacked in the corner of the store. And looking more closely at the woman's leg, they were blue with bruises from being kicked. It took me only a moment to think of who could have done that. Took a look round. The old man from the dried goods store had tattered clothes, and the young man from the liquor store was holding his chick. Everyone. Oh my god, oh. Kicked me in the emotional hearts, as it were. Someone described a fic that I like as emotional edging, and I've been unable to think of similes since then. Yet here I am, letting my emotions run wild, screaming, yelling and doubting them. I'm sorry. I deeply bowed my head from the bottom of my heart. I was about to harass them, just like that bastard Tepe. No, not just that. I can't doubt. I'm the one who told Keiichi and the others they mustn't feel the urge to kill. Rika, it's awful. They walked over to apologize and comfort me, but I fattened them a white smile and turned my back and started walking. I suppose at least they could potentially press charges on Tepe for assault. In my heart, I've decided. I never wanted to come here again. Satoko's real house. Hojo house. This house has been vacant since Satoko and I started living together last year. At first she periodically came back to pick up seasonal clothes and daily necessities, but she'd already brought most of her stuff over, so she finally stopped coming back here. Satoko, this house is nothing but a sad place that reminds her of her painful life with aunt and uncle, and of Satoshi, though she never wanted to be nearby. But my reason for hating this house is a little different. That's because whenever this house comes up, I know what kind of world this is. However, I came here with a different feeling that I had in the previous world. I have a single goal, a single purpose. The window on the second floor of the Hojo house was open. Maybe the other windows were open for the ventilation, because the soot-stained curtains inside were swaying. This is the same situation as the previous wall. But this time, my knees weren't shaking at all. An unfamiliar motorcycle was parked by the house, next to a futon and drying laundry. Unmistakable signs of life. Evidence that someone was living in the Hojo house. And who was living there? Didn't even need to ask. Rika? Satoko? Satoko apparently noticed me when she came to pick up the futon. Oh, Rika. Satoko said that in a whisper, trying to hide her sadness behind a smile. It was painful just watching. There were painful marks on her face. But don't look away, look closely. Satoko, you shouldn't be here. Let's go home. I reached for her hand, but she left her hands hanging and deeply hung her head. Rika, I'm going to be living in this house starting today. That song again. Those same words I'd heard in past weeks. Words that I never wanted to hear again come out of Satoko's mouth. My uncle came back, so I need to live with him now. This house. Is that how you truly feel, Satoko? Do you really want to live with Tepe? There's nothing we can do about it. Rika, even if I go back to your house, he'll just bring me back. That'll just make trouble for you, Rika. She had a sad smile of resignation. Just like a year ago, this was the Satoko of 1982, and the same Satoko I saw in the previous worlds. The same scenes, the same conversations repeating over and over like a broken record. The cheerful Satoko that I was living with until just yesterday was already gone. After this, she'll be terribly abused by her uncle. Still, it's possible to save her and escape this crisis with Keiichi's help. But these events happened long before Higurashi. So even though we were able to rescue her and play together at the festival back then, this time the festival's only the day after tomorrow. Which means Satoko won't be able to participate this time? Satoko energetically romping around with a cheerful smile on her face. A pleasant sight. That joyous moment. The mental image warped and turned grey, sinking into the darkness. My heart started to ache like I was pick up drowning as I hopelessly watched. Satoko, you better not leave. Where'd you go? I could hear his filthy, angry voice. Satoko's shoulders trembled and she stared off into empty space. Huh? What are you doing? Suddenly that man was standing behind her. Nothing. Just that a friend came to visit. You can't just do whatever you please. Bathtub still needs scrubbing. How'd you expect me to take a bath like this? Satoko continued trembling and quickly started to rush back inside like a frightened little man, scurrying into a corner. The miserable sight of her back squeezed at my heart, so I... Satoko, please wait. Uh-huh? She was trying to enter the house, but she stopped and looked back when I called out to her. Did you have a playdate lined up? Sorry about that, but little Satoko is busy cleaning the house today. I'm her uncle. I've been away on a business trip for a long time, but I'm finally back in Hinamizawa. Please say, what do you hope to accomplish by deliberately telling a child like me such peck of lies? Or does this man truly believe his poor reputation at Alchemia hasn't made it to Hinamizawa? Business trip? Where'd you go? Huh? That don't matter. This is the first I've heard of it. Was it the sort of business trip where you loaf around doing nothing at some other lady's house? What's with you flapping your gums like that? How laughable. How incredibly stupid. The man in front of me looked so idiotic that I burst into laugh. His dialogue fit a single pattern, no exceptions. I wondered if he'd be able to speak differently, but it's always the same words and the same attitude. So consistent, it's even more pathetic than it is stupid. Listen up. Don't you dare disrespect me. Tepe completely forgot that he was dealing with a child and grabbed me by the collar. The front of my collar tore under the momentum, but when my eyes stared directly at the beast approaching me, my heart remained surprisingly cool. My response just a moment ago was probably poor judgment. Sure that if Keiichi was in this position, he'd be able to save her. He gained the support of his friends, classmates, other villagers, and even the Samazaki family. Through his strong leadership and actions, he appealed to the Okonomiya CCC. And even though Satoko had been suffering for a while, passion and trust that Keiichi and the others showed her allowed her to regain the courage to speak up and defy him. It's a miracle that it happened in the previous world. And even in this world, there's a good chance that he'll be able to do it again. So at first I was planning just to wait it out. Rika, please stop, Uncle. Rika has nothing to do with this. Shut your trap. Hurry and heat up that bathwater already. Rika, run! Hurry and get out of here! Satoko desperately clung to Teppei's legs while crying and begging for forgiveness. Looking down and seeing him again, I felt really grateful for all the kindness I'd seen in her up until now. Satoko, I'm sure she's still suffering from that fever she had earlier today, right? And she was forcibly taken away in order to do housework. But despite that, she's still more worried about me than herself. She's willing to cover for me now, even knowing full well what's in store for her later. So, brat, going against me, huh? So I'll fight. Teppei wildly thrust me away and reached for his eyes. Good on, Rika. Then he collapsed to the ground, uttering loud noises with a runny nose and filthy tears dribbling down his bright red face. I rushed over to Teppei, grabbed him by his slimy hair and sprayed even more of the pepper spray into his eyes. Teppei desperately tried to close his eyes, but the spray went up his nose too, irritating his mucous membranes and forcing disgusting tears and snot to come running out. The sneezing and pain was so bad he couldn't even lift his head. My eyes! Desperately rolled around on the ground, going into a wild rampage trying to keep me away. But compared to my fight with Shion so long ago, an attack of this caliber was mere child's play. Carefully timed it so I could kick him in the face the moment he turned his head this way. I'm aware that kicks from a scrawny little girl don't have a lot of power behind them, but it's a totally different story when they manage to hit a vital spot. As luck would have it, the edge of my left foot struck Teppei in the bridge of his nose, and the man flipped over and crumbled on the spot. Satoko, let's go! Not Rika? Satoko stared bewildered at my outstretched hand. She was both surprised to see me fighting back and confused to see the object of all her fear, Teppei, mercilessly suffering with pepper spray all over his face. Now, hurry! I really can't move. I'm glad that you feel this way, truly. However, you probably think that enduring this is necessary to return for Satoshi and to become stronger. But nobody will be happy with that. Nobody thinks you need redemption. Not even Satoshi. He was born to be so tolerant, so patient. You think he's gone because he didn't work hard enough before? So you think you need to endure it now? That's wrong. You're mistaken. Satoshi worked as hard as he did so you wouldn't have to endure this. He continued fighting bravely because he wanted to protect you. But Rika, didn't you see it right before you came here? The people you thought were treating you coldly up until now stood up and protected you from him. You didn't want to be a bother for them, so you followed this man without resisting. And yet it's never a bad thing to bother someone to ask for help. What you really shouldn't do is turn away from the people who've put in the thought and effort to fight on your behalf, right? Just realised I'm doing that wrong voice for her. But, Stoker, please remember. You should still remember it. That image of your brother standing alone to protect you. Now picture another courageous brother, gathering immense strength from absolutely nothing in order to save you. And even till the end, he never gave up. Are you going to continue ignoring the people who've been thinking so hard about you? Satoko Hojo? Satoko, we're about to come save you. If you admit that you need help, even the mayor of Shishibone City will support you. Crazy, isn't it? It's all thanks to the Samazaki group. Mion's grandma's doing all of this for you. Satoko always felt bitter towards the Samazaki family, because they were often the ones talking about her behind her back. She hated Oria most of all. It didn't make sense to her that Oria would do anything to help her. I know you went through a lot of hard times after the Down conflict. I didn't notice it, but you were being treated coldly for a long time. But I took care of all those people for you. No one will ever treat you badly in Hinamizawa again. I wish I could show you all the people that have gathered around the CCC right now. Everyone from Hinamizawa is here to save you. We're even skipping the preparation for tomorrow's festival. Try to remember. Reaching a hand out isn't the same as asking for help. Together. Rika. She timidly uttered that, hesitation still in her heart. Nevertheless, she listened to what I had to say and slowly began walking towards me. A little later, just a little later, I raised my hand. I couldn't hold my back, my feelings, so I took a step forward and held my hand out to her. Satoko extended hers in return. Where do you think you're going, Satoko? What? I suddenly gasped and my whole body froze. Right before my eyes, Satoko was being grabbed from behind by a man with log-like arms. She tensed up with a bewildered look on her face. Some little girl came over. Want to play together? Huh? An offering to Techa. Praise or Yashua-san. One by one, 3 strong, uncouth men came out the front door and greeted me with a nasty smile. One of them had grabbed Satoko and let her go, while the other 2 snapped their fingers and moved in to surround me. Invited his friends to the house? Thinking over for a moment, it seemed perfectly natural. Considering what a nuisance he was in the village and his rampage while kidnapping Satoko in the shopping district, it's easy to assume he called over a few like-minded good-for-nothings for self-defense. It was my mistake for not accounting for it. I regret acting so impulsive. At the very least, I should have waited for Keiichi and the others before taking action. Rika, look out! That. I did my best to shield my head from a sudden kick from behind. Took an intense kick to the stomach and was knocked backwards. Fell to the ground and a jolt of pain ran through my entire body. So this is literally assault on a child. And I don't think adults can claim excessive violence, self-defense for being pepper sprayed. Proud. Seriously think you can make a fool out of me? Oh, damn it. Does this guy not even realise his opponent is a child? Is it lack of common sense, or has nobody taught him a thing about morals? Quietly cursed him as I stood up on shaky legs. Pain coursed through my body and my whole head was running. Rika, stop it, please stop. And Techan goes berserk, there's no stopping him. Are you sure this is okay? You're dealing with the guardian god of village. Won't there be a problem if things go bad? Well, we'll stop it before it gets too dangerous. Rika! Run! Hurry up and run! I could vaguely hear Satoko crying out from behind the vulgar men's conversation. But even if she said that, my consciousness was already fading out, and this was the sort of situation to make someone lose their mind. Satoko, I'm sorry. Only after enduring this did I finally understand. I should have known what a dangerous situation you were in. Didn't want to waste a moment trying to wait and see. Maybe it was already too late. And even if I regret my choices this time, I can't reset time. I'm miserable. Truly miserable. I just looked away from the worst case scenario and I wouldn't stand up. I couldn't understand it from your point of view. Huh? What's that? Still want to keep going? Seriously want to die? Please, Uncle, please forgive Rika. I'm begging you right here. Don't say anything, Satoko. Satoko turned a tear-filled face this way when she heard my bloody cry. Then I slowly shook my head, trying my best to smile. Rika! For the longest time, I'd given up, thinking there was nothing I could do to help you. And now it's different. Fate means nothing so long as you have the strength of will, so we can burst right through this dead end. And as long as we're willing to take action, we can open the door to anything. I'll prove it to you. Right here, right now. Right? At last I realised. Not just power of will that pulls us towards the best possible fate. It requires the effort to put those strong feelings into action. So I won't run away anymore. I won't give up. I'm going to save Satoko. And in order to do that, we need to take back the happiness that these guys stole from us. You think I've given up? I swear, I'm going to bring Satoko home. What do you say? I won't run away anymore. So lend me your strength, can you? Keiichi. Oh. What? Something came flying from behind Tepe at a tremendous speed. He was caught completely off guard and couldn't avoid it, so he took a direct hit and was knocked away. The object that struck Tepe was a bicycle, and riding that bike was... Sorry to keep you waiting, Rika. Keiichi! I was so elated that I leapt towards him, but my legs were in bad shape, so I fell into his chair. And then tears came overflowing from all the pain and fear that I'd kept locked away all this time. You're late. Try to read the atmosphere a little better. What would you do if I'd gotten seriously hurt? Sorry, I'm really sorry. But it's all right now. We'll protect Satoko. Just watch. Then Keiichi pulled me tighter onto his chest while turning towards the trio that had captured her. Got one thing to say to you. Release Satoko, unless you want to witness hell. Huh? Got a smart mouth, punk? Got a death wish, huh? What do you think you can do against us alone, you brat? Get ready for some broken bones, kid. Keep trying to act cool, you worthless legs. How can you grandstand while hiding behind a girl's back? Cowards. Customary for scoundrels to work in Crete, but if you can't settle a fight without resorting to taking hostages, you're completely despicable. What'd you say? Three of them were trying to make threats, but when the situation turned around to them, they got angry. Then one of the men decided to take advantage of their superior numbers and lash out at Keiichi. Oh yeah? Where did I? Too slow. Too slow, too slow, too slow. Idiots. Your third-rate attacks are like slow motion compared to Wayner's punches. Keiichi dodged the attacking man's log-like arms by hair's breadth and slammed his elbow into his stomach in a surprise attack. Beautifully executed blow had his full body weight behind her, so the man screamed and became entangled with Keiichi, causing them both to fall. Bastard! I'll murder you, son of a bitch. And this, not going easy on you anymore. The man Keiichi had attacked in Tepe, who'd finally gotten back up, both cowardly joined together with the others to surround him. It is bad. Keiichi's being attacked, but once there's no way he can resist. Shit. Keiichi. Even using all my strength to help him, I can't even move my legs. My frail little body is so disappointing at times like this. Before long he took a hit that he couldn't avoid and his body curled up in pain. Then he took a kick from behind and collapsed to his knees. Stop this already. Yes, stop. Keiichi, run away. Seeing the terrible disadvantage Keiichi was in, Sotoko cried out and reached a hand out to him. But his body was being grabbed by the remaining man, so he couldn't do anything more than struggle. Sotoko, Keiichi, Rika, that's enough. That's enough. Please leave me and run away. No more. Can't take it anymore. Both of you, don't resort to any more violence. Leave me here, Rin. Believe in us, Sotoko. Sotoko couldn't bear to watch anyone and cried out demanding surrender. Keiichi turned to her with his eyes open wide and shouted back. Seeing his unending courage and hearing his strong voice, despite the danger of the situation, caused Sotoko to be taken aback. It's okay. We've decided we want to help you. This isn't someone else's will or destiny, or even because you asked for help. I don't want to see you getting any more hurt, and I don't want to comfort myself saying you'll get rescued someday. So we've come to the decision that we're going to save you, right here and now. Keiichi. Sotoko. Even if you continue to endure this, God is far too busy to help, and miracles don't happen so easily. Plus, even if you indulge me, my hands are only so long, so I can't reach you unless you extend your hand too. So don't give up. Reach your hand out from out there. I won't give up. My desire to help you will never waver. So Sotoko, please show us your courage. Show us the strength of your will. Friends are people you can trust, right? We're your friends. Keiichi. Try to remember. Reaching a hand out isn't the same as asking. Together we'll fight. Sotoko? Last, she finally reached a decision. She raised her head, then bit the arm of the man who was holding her. When he loosened his grip in pain, she rushed towards Tepe, who was surrounding Keiichi, and barreled into him with her entire body. Sotoko. I won't give in. Sotoko quickly got back on her feet and stared face to face at Tepe, who was getting upset about this unexpected counterattack. The light that her eyes had lost until a moment ago had finally returned and was shining bright. I won't lose to you. I will not lose to you. I hate you and I swear I'll never lose to you. Hunt. Letting his anger take control, Tepe mercilessly swung his arms at her. But her greatest weapon, her small body and high agility, so she was able to dodge easily. Then, taking advantage of him losing his cool, she quickly bent down and tackled his right leg, the moment his centre of gravity shifted away. Completely off guard, he fell down on the spot. However, Sotoko was also thrown off balance in the process and rolled to the ground along with him. Serves you right, you out-of-shape middle-aged man. What did you say? Tepe screamed in rage while swinging his fist. But his movements were sluggish. Like just a moment ago, Sotoko was able to quickly dodge it. When the centre of gravity shifted away from the bottom of his feet for a moment, she grabbed one and tried to lift it up. Huh? He stumbled to the ground as Sotoko looked down at him from above. Now their situation was completely reversed. Tepe rose to his feet once more and swung his arms and leg up, over and over while screaming in a brutal, rage-filled voice. But in the end, it was just a weakling putting on airs to try and intimidate someone smaller than him. The wanton to display power had no meaning before Sotoko. His anger massively reduced the accuracy of his attacks, so she was able quickly to move it beyond his reach. When they faced each other like this, she was beginning to laugh at herself for ever fearing a man of this caliber. Oh, they say the weaker the dove, the stronger its bark. And you're a perfect example of that, dear uncle. I'm not a brat. Ingrate, you murdered your parents. What? Soka completely froze up the moment she heard. It's the one thing that should absolutely never be said. Got nothing good to say about that, huh? Big bitch. You dumped their parents into the river for their money, didn't you? Stop it! I used every last ounce of my strength to rise to my feet and run towards him. But my pathetically weak advance ended with me being thrust away and rolling to the ground near Sito. And behind my battered body, Stoker was crouched down, shivering and clutching her head. I endured the pain and desperately rushed over to Stoker to help him. Hey, Stoker, you don't have to remember. That memory is nonsense. When I raised my head, I noticed Tepe's hideous form looking down at us. Just die already. Stop right there, Tepe. Just then, for a moment, I thought the voice I heard was a hallucination. No, it can't be. It's completely unreasonable to it. But you would come to a place like this? Satoko! I heard Shion cry out and she rushed over to my side to embrace Satoko. But more importantly, I had to confirm that voice that was still lingering in my ears, so I looked up. Rika! Looking back in that direction, he was rushing towards me. Not me. Can I really believe that? Can't let this be an illusion. It's your friend and mine, Akasaka. As I knelt there like that, he held me against his chest with big arms to protect me. Akasaka? Rika, you alright? Akasaka. I always wanted to say. You were the first person I turned to. Finally here. Finally come at a time like this. Sorry, I'm wrong. You can rest easy now. I cried out and jumped into his chest and sobbed. Then he stood up, still holding me to protect me, and spoke to Tepe in a dignified voice, even as that man's sweat-soaked face was quaking in fear. Tepe Hojo and his co-conspirators. This is the police. I've come to arrest you on suspected violation of narcotics control laws for this flagrant display of violence I just witnessed. What? Unlike you, the policemen in the surrounding area all jumped in at once to seize the man. Their faces warped in shock and fear when they realised how quickly the situation had turned to their disadvantage. So they desperately turned their backs and scrambled towards the forest behind them. Don't! Don't let them escape. Many policemen went chasing after them, all along I had a few screams. Feeling relieved to see this whole situation unfold, all the pain I was holding back suddenly returned to me and collapsed to the ground. Rika, you alright? I'm okay. Boss doesn't want to go after Tepe? Sure, that's Orishi's job, isn't it? Akasaka, please don't steal my lines. The Metropolitan Police Department doesn't have the authority to arrest local criminals, do they? What's more, you don't have a warrant, and that part about violating the Narcotics Control Act was a total lie. Then... I stared bewildered at Akasaka as he looked back with a wry smile on his face. So in other words, it was just a bluff? A policeman are telling lies, the Japanese Police Department is done for. Judging by the way they reacted, it doesn't seem far from the truth. You should search their house just in case. Can't do that without a warrant. You're really a government official. You'll never get anything done if you play strictly by the book. Am I wrong about that? You got an awfully shrewd in the time since we last worked together. Yuma, please gather some people to check inside. Roger. The detective who called Kim acted on that order and took another 3 people inside. Over by the front door, Keiichi was laying on the ground looking completely exhausted, and Shion was hugging Stoker while shedding tears of relief. Keiichi, are you alright? Yeah, this is nothing. Keiichi forced a smile while wiping the blood from his lips. After seeing that strong, encouraging look on his face, I was finally able to smile. But at that same moment... Satoko? What's wrong, Satoko? Shion's tense shout brought me back to my senses. When I looked that way, Shion was supporting Satoko's head in her arm. She muttered something over and over. She was trembling and shaking her head repeatedly with a vacant look. That's not true. It wasn't me. Didn't... Satoko, pull yourself together. Dun dun dun. I think we've got time for one more chapter. I'm a bit behind on. inverted commas schedule here, but there we go. New tips. Finally stopped when I could no longer hear the footsteps and angry shouts of the police. My whole body was already drenched with sweat, not just my feet, but all the muscles in my body were dry. Not only that, but my lungs were as hot as a raging fire. They felt like they were about to burst. Shit, dizzy. I exhaled everything from inside my chest, but the lump of air felt even worse against my throat. My pants and other clothes looked absolutely miserable, caked with mud, sweat, and vomit. Grim. Shit, damn it. Things ended up like this because of that pest. Can't do anything about it, shouting at those noisy punks and even the police. Sure, they already told the police about the medicine. They'd even kept it hidden from Ritsuko until now. It all fell apart thanks to that bastard. I was able to get by before with no evidence of violence or extortion, but this stroke is different. I'll definitely get thrown in jail for 2 to 3 years. Kill you. I swear I'll kill you when you come back. So sorry, but that's impossible. Ah! I heard a cold voice coming from behind and quickly turned around. There stood a woman with a dry smile on her face. She's the nurse from the area clinic. Look at you all would have come here. Be quiet now. For her? What do you intend to do with me? I haven't decided yet. Guess you can be a hostage till I ditch the cops. The slowball man is too shallow to even think it through. What's with this woman? Even though I was standing right in front of her holding a huge knife, she didn't budge. In fact, her ice smile seemed to get even colder. She carefully stared at me with her eyes open wide, walking up to me in slow motion like she was just taking a barefoot stroll. Yes, like a carnivore peeling back its fangs and stretching out its nails. A cruel, menacing atmosphere seemed to leak from her entire body. Am I being threatened? Stop. I'll stab your eye. No, you won't. That's far too big. This lead bullet might end up between your eyes, though. Should we give it a try? Oh my, it's over already? You fainted from just a few warning shots? I won't let you die that easily. You bring back unpleasant memories. Hey, and they have Okay, I was just wondering trying to work out what history they had, but a cursory Google has told me nothing, so. Right, end of chapter 16. Let's do chapter 17. Let's go. At least starter. There's no need to worry. Condition is stabilized. Iria removed the sapphire from his ears while looking back at us with a smile. I was finally able to release the tension accumulating inside of me, lapsed on the spot. Rika? Rika? Ichi and Shun were standing on opposite sides of me, knelt down at almost the same time. I tried to show them a smile, but there was no hiding the dense sweat spread across me. Is there another bed? Right this way, send the next room over there. That barbecue, Ichi scooped up my bed. Then, after leaving Iria's exam room, he laid me down on a bed in the exam room next door, and Akasaka gently laid a comforter on. Coach, how's Rika doing? I've taken X-ray. Thankfully, there were no abnormalities in the bone structure. But it's hopeless fighting a man like Tepe. I think he'd resort to such merciless violence against a little girl. If I'd run away, Satoko would be the one in this. So I'm glad to have taken her place. I put a hand on Irio's tightly clenching fist as I said that and gave him a beaming, bright smile. He looked a bit embarrassed and tried to adjust his glasses when he saw that and spoke apologetically. I underestimated Stego's situation because she's so patient. Didn't speak up. To be perfectly honest, just the thought of what might happen if you were left unattended is enough to make me shake. Indeed, it was terrifying. Satoko suffered violence in the previous worlds, but we were always looking at it from a distance, so we never knew just how severe it was. So all I could do was watch as she was broken, unable to help her. Thinking back then, she always acted like all this pain was no big deal. So, what about Tepe? What's going to happen to him after this? I wish from Okonomiya Station is leading a considerable number of officers pursuing him. They found a variety of illegal drugs when they searched the Hojo residence. Some dads say we can nail him for more crimes than just the act of violence. I hope you can grab him by the tail and arrest him soon. I felt the same way, but I'm sure Oishi has some lingering desire to let him and the suspicion that he'll be the target of the curse at this year's baton, especially after Rumina's murder. So they might think it's better to close their eyes to these lesser crimes and to avoid arresting him. Yet, why are they taking action here? It's a good turn of events, of course, but it's a little surprising. Rika, considering the circumstances, you sure you're okay? Saka moved his mouth close to mine and whispered that to me. When I heard that, I faintly nodded to him, used my arms to sit up. My head still hurt a little, but I wasn't about to say. Maybe you should get some rest. Is Takano out today? Huh? Oh, she already went home for the day. Did you need something from her? I'm fine, but more importantly, I want someone looking after Satoko. It's sad that she's all alone now. Understood. Shion, let's get going. If Takano is out, then there's nobody looking after Satoko at the moment. With that in mind, Irio gently beckoned Shion and left the exam. Shion looked painfully reluctant as she followed behind him. Akasaka, Keiichi and I were the only ones left in the room. Who is he? Keiichi's my partner. My adulterous companion. Yippah! Adulterous? Oh, I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Keiichi Maebara. Keiichi lightly bowed his head as she said that. After a brief glance at that, Asaka turned back to me. I silently nodded to him. He turned back towards Keiichi and answered him, sending a large hand. I'm Akasaka, of the Metropolitan Police Department, Public Security Division. Oh, could you hold on a second? Sure. Akasaka stood up as he said that, then pulled something resembling a black walkie-talkie out of his breast pocket and held it up to the corners of the room. After checking all 4 corners, he set a chair in front of the door and came back this way. Sorry about that. I had to make sure this room wasn't being wiretapped. Thanks to my job, I'm used to dealing with people who don't play by the conventional rule. Akasaka shrugged his shoulders and put the black object. So he has a wiretap detector on hand right now, huh? Since Rika considers you her partner, I'll trust you with what I'm about to say. However, I'd like you to keep all of this strictly confidential going forward, right? Akasaka set a folding chair down right in front of Keiichi, so close that their knees were practically touching, and turned to him. He must have endured some extreme situations over the last 5 years to make him this strong. Keiichi looked strained by that pressure, of course, but immediately gave him a powerful nod. So first of all, let's start with the story about how Rika and I got to know one another. I'm going to tell your wife you said that. I spoke up without thinking, but immediately started to regret it. Akasaka's wife was found in the previous worlds, but not in this world. However, right. Even though you saved her life, you're going to stab me this time. Akasaka's cheerful laugh completely blew my unease away. Yes. Yes, she's safe in this one too. Then Akasaka explained to Keiichi how the two of us met 5 years ago. Akasaka was sent to Hinamizawa by the Public Security Division of the Metropolitan Police Department during the Dam Opposition movement, in an effort to determine the whereabouts of the kidnapped grandson of the Minister of Construction. Then he was able to rescue the minister's grandson from the kidnappers, and afterwards I confessed some of the truth to him. It wasn't a short story, even in summary, but Keiichi listened all the way until the end with an earnest expression. So, Akasaka, why'd you come back to Hinamizawa? I'm on vacation. After a few days of sightseeing in Hinamizawa, my wife and I were planning to go to a private hot spring in Wakura. But before that, Rika, there's just one thing I'd like you to tell me. What would that be? You asked me for help back then. Is there still time now? Is there anything I can do to lend you my strength? There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life. Even if I tell you this, it might not change anything though. But if you want to raise the spectre of death, sometimes, with the reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone. No idea what she was trying to say. I had to listen to every word from my body and soul, at least that's what I thought. And then the year after that, this day in the June of 1980, possibly a few days afterwards, I would be killed. All the deaths are preordained, and the last one would also be according to plan. But then whose plan would it be? This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It'd be fine to believe that all the deaths up until 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It'd be fine to believe that all the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There was no way that the last death would fit with anyone's plan. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. The goals were at odds with this last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over the mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that? I want to live happily. That's my only wish. Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably. Only that. I don't wish for anything more than that. I don't want to die. The girl, stoic as ever, let those last words slip in the end. However, Akasaka didn't understand the meaning of the words back then. No, he didn't want to understand. To be perfectly honest, they seemed like nonsensical childish ramblings, and he was far more concerned about his own injuries, his wife Yukie, and finding a way to put an end to the kidnapping. He was a narrow-minded man who couldn't see beyond his own problem. However, now things are different. He's grown since then, and he's changed. Because thanks to Rika's advice, he was able to avoid losing what was most precious to him. That day, 5 years ago, something bad will happen if you don't go back to the night that Akasaka heard Rika's ominous prophecy. He immediately thought of his wife, who was in hospital in preparation for childbirth. She could be in some sort of danger. He didn't really believe it, but when he had prayed to God for a safe delivery, he couldn't really simply ignore it. Akasaka was worried about it, so he called the hospital at some point in the middle of the investigation, and he shuddered just thinking about what he heard from the nurse back. The rooftop? What's she doing in a place like that? Please help while I'm telling you a secret from your wife, okay? She wanted to send her voice to her husband working hard so far away, by any means necessary. She made it a daily routine to go up the stairs every day. Saka felt a cold, mysterious atmosphere. It was more frightening. He couldn't laugh it off like it was any child's. He seemed truly grateful to have his wife's pure feelings supporting him all this time. After that, the nurse mentioned the stairs. Simply maintaining balance while walking with a heavy body was difficult enough exercise, but going up and down the stairs was something that should never be done at that stage of pregnancy. To make it worse, she was doing it alone. Even if the chance is slim, if she were to fall, who on earth would help her? A disgusting mental image emerged in the back of Akasaka's mind, of a nurse calling out to Yukie, and going out to find her. The tiles on the stairs are especially slippery when wearing the sandals provided to hospital patients. In fact, one time when he went to meet there, he saw an old man nearly lose his footing. If she were to inadvertently slip and fall, just like the old man, any impact on a pregnant woman's body is dangerous. Not just for the child, but for the mother too. And Yukie was never one to stand perfectly still. Even when she had a fever, she wouldn't hesitate to say that doing her housework calmed her down. So Akasaka? Huh? What's wrong, dear? Yukie, please. I understand you'd like to move around. I want you to stay put until I get back. Please, this is a once-in-a-lifetime request. Once in a lifetime? You're exaggerating. By any chance did the nurse tell you something? How embarrassing. I'm truly glad that you feel this way. I really am grateful from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, you're too good for me. What was this all of a sudden? Something happened, dear? So please, if something were to happen to you, I don't know how I would be able to go on living. I want to build a warm family with you. Together, forever. I'm sure you're laughing and thinking I'm getting carried away. But even so, dear. Before he realised it, Akasaka began mumbling his words like they were mixed in with tears. For some reason he was feeling especially sad, but didn't know why. Still, he wanted to tell her. He couldn't keep going. Just imagine the worst possible future. It made him feel genuine sorrow. He tasted this in another tongue. Okay, dear. I'm sorry for not taking better care of my body. I'll behave myself until you come. Thanks, Yukie. Don't worry about it. I'm really glad you feel this way. Take care of yourself too, dear. Please, come back safely. That concern? In a sense, it was what led to the best result. When Akasaka called a few days later, he heard there was an accident at a loose tile caused someone to slip and fall down the stairs. The janitor was seriously injured, and that was the exact same stairwell Yukiya used when going up to the rooftop. He hadn't taken the girl's advice and called her. He was awestruck and couldn't believe it. It doesn't take much thought to see that as the worst possible future. It was all thanks to Rika Furude's miraculous prophecy. I accidentally spoiled myself for a thing, but never mind. Sorry about that. That's honking time outside. I hear the curses cause mysterious deaths in the village every year, just as you predicted. Everything you told me was completely true. The last thing you said was that you were going to be killed this time. Akasaka. My wife and daughter are more precious to me than absolutely anything else. But the only reason I have them at all is thanks to you. That's why I'll never allow the person who saved me to be over. So this time, let me use my strength. I've not seen that angry sprite on him before. It's good. Akasaka. I feel like I forgot for such a long time, but I finally remembered. Sorry for keeping you waiting for so long. Akasaka. Tears came spilling out, non-stop, fell down to the ground. Such an encouraging speech. The words I always wanted to hear from Akasaka, that I'd finally given up on after such a long time. I really have been waiting so long. And in those final words, so fortunate that you really came back, Akasaka. I'm on your side no matter what. I'll believe any crazy story you tell me. And I promise you I'll cross whatever throat set in your life. Akasaka. Hearing that, even though I thought that a world without Hanyu meant the worst possible fate had come, his words managed to pierce right through it. I'm sure even Akasaka doesn't know just how much this fills my heart with joy, gratitude, and hope. But I wanted to tell him the intense depth of my feelings, and I wanted to tell Keiichi, who was sitting quietly beside him, watching over me with a smile on his face. Right now, I have such powerful allies. There's no reason to feel depressed. No, I can't feel depressed. I'll grab hold of the future, for their sake too. I'm certain of it. Time to fight has nearly arrived. I mustered my determination, then carefully told Keiichi and Akasaka everything I knew about Miotsukushi and this Tokyo organization. And after finishing the explanation, Akasaka glanced at the door behind him. Quite a lot of time had passed. Irie and Shion would be quite surprised to walk in on this. So Rika, your suspicions are mostly directed at Miotsukushi. That's more than just suspicion. I'm certain of it, right, Rika? I nodded with all my strength to confirm Keiichi's intention. Akasaka seemed dubious of that assertion and considered it for a moment, but my anxiety was soon dispelled by his smile. How reassuring. I have two allies who will believe such a nonsensical story without any reservation. I guess you heard all that from Dr. Irie at the clinic. In terms of the scale and funding into Hinamizawa research, syndrome research, Takano is just the tail of the lizard. Unless we can figure out what this Tokyo organization is really planning, another person could come along and try to eliminate me, Rika. Indeed, I don't know whose will the curse is following, but I do think it's being done to maliciously control the villagers without their knowledge. Unless we can figure out why this Tokyo was this year's, will never make any sense of it. Between Akasaka's experience and Keiichi's intuition, they did their best to uncover the mystery. Having felt like I was tackling this all alone the whole time, I was grateful to see this. At any rate, we need more information. I'll continue the investigation on my end, so Maebara, Rika, please tell me if you learn anything, okay? Got it. Leave it to me. Saka, we'll also need to earn the cooperation of a man named Tomitake, who works as a liaison to Take. Especially important because Takano will personally kill him on the night of Atanagashi unless we intervene. Why would she do that? I don't know, but I think something about her shady intentions is lurking behind this murder. If that's the case, we need to help out this time. A mess up like we did with Rina and Mia, I can't bear to it. It's true, but be that as it may, I doubt Tomitake would take the two of them seriously. And in the worst case scenario, there's even a chance he could leak information to Takano. The most ideal scenario would be for him to discover the details in this conspiracy on his own, so we need you to make that happen. Again, Rika, I've been thinking about this for a while, but why don't I help you more directly? What? Akasaka, are you really okay with that? I immediately gasped at his astonishing suggestion. Right beside me, Ichi's eyes were open wide and shut, and I'm sure I'm making the same face. But if you do this, then your wife, who came all the way out here with you, will. It's alright. Ask an acquaintance to look after them, and I'll explain everything to them when I get back to Tokyo. For now, I can let them stay at my parents' house and activate the public security personnel protection group, so it's not going to be a problem. Akasaka. And so, this will put you in danger. Besides, it's just like I told you earlier, Rika. You saved my wife's life. If you hadn't spoken to me back then, I might have lost her and my daughter. It's time for me to pay you back. I want you to trust me. Saka. His eyes were shining bright and full of determination. Being encouraged by those eyes, I decided to accept his proposal. Failure is not an option. Any misstep will not just put myself at risk, but Akasaka as well. I'm checking a thing really quick. But I've already decided. I'm not going to hesitate any longer. I'll never give up. I'm going to grab hold of my happiness, no matter what it takes. I'm certain of that. The night was already upon us. The bruises on my arms and legs still hurt, but not enough to keep me from standing. In this condition, I'll probably still be able to handle my Tanagashi before days from now. The villagers rushed to the clinic as soon as they heard the story. They were so worried and upset that they'd completely forgotten they were in a hospital and started to make a huge commotion. So Shion and Keiichi were having trouble calming them down. Apparently they're going to head out of the village tomorrow to search for Tepe. Can't imagine what they might do to him. When I decided to ask Kichiro and the others to focus on protecting Satoko. I could see the same mixed feelings on everyone's faces, but Keiichi and Shion turned to them and pressed for an answer. When people heard Rika was seriously injured, so many people ran over to check on her. She was very happy to see that, but she wanted everyone to consider this. If Rika hadn't covered for her, Satoko would have been the one to suffer those injuries. I don't want anyone to think that it would be any more acceptable for Satoko to have been the one suffering this pain. If everyone was just a little more considerate and courageous, Rika wouldn't have been so seriously hurt. As much as all of you respect and cherish Rika, did none of you consider that possibility? The elders couldn't say anything back, and after once again witnessing a tragedy that they turned their blind eye to, all they could do was hang their heads and shake. It'll still be difficult to win their support without her. But if they keep at it like this, Satoko should be able to gain an environment as comfortable as... Speaking of her, I can only pray that she doesn't remember that memory when she regains consciousness. For now, I have to forget about her. I need to do something about my own situation. Howdy, Rika. Nice to see you. Bye. Tomitake just arrived and was climbing the stone steps in front of the shrine. Based on the camera in his hand and the bag on his shoulder, I could tell he'd come directly from the clinic. Just before leaving the clinic, I told Irie that I wanted to meet up with him. He wanted to talk to me. Something wrong? Tomitake. Do you know anything about Tomitake Mark II? I opened the conversation by cutting straight to the subject. Huh? What does that mean? Sure enough, he opened his eyes wide and tilted his head, unable to grasp the meaning of what I said. At any rate, the Tomitake Mark II doesn't seem to have gone through to him. That's a little disappointing. Tomitake. What on earth are you talking about? A detective that recently came to Okonomiya Station. You heard anything about it? Detective in Okonomiya? Rika, where did you hear that? He was still smiling, but his eyes were carefully fixated on me. The mountain dogs are personnel within Okonomiya Station, so it seemed perfectly natural for him to know. but I guess he was surprised to discover that I knew about it. His expression told me that he couldn't figure out my true intention. Akasaka's a friend of mine. We became close when he visited here 5 years ago. Huh? Right, so that's what you mean. But 5 years is an awfully long time. You have a good memory. Of course. Because he came here when the minister's grandson was kidnapped. Omote's expression completely changed. Of course, he likely already knew about the incident 5 years ago, but he probably had no idea that the detective here now was the same detective. Which means that detective is from public security at the Metropolitan Police Department. He came here looking for the minister's grandson 5 years ago, but what could he be looking for this time? The smile on Tomotake's face had vanished without a trace. He began looking more like an intrepid, intelligent agent. In his head, he was probably thinking about ways to allocate staff for future investigations to address the situation. Tomotake, what's going on in Tokyo right now? Huh? No, there's nothing strange going on. It's just like usual. I was talking to Akasaka a little while ago. He had some concerns about the flow of money from Tokyo to the Irie's institution. I'd like you to look into this. I might be able to do that in the next few days, but why on earth are you asking? It seems our payments are flowing through to Kano and Irie. I thought it was weird that our payments had recently gone down. That's ridiculous. Tomotake unpleasantly frowned. One of his responsibilities is to oversee how the funds are being used. He was probably leaving them mostly alone thanks to their cordial relation. It wasn't clear if he felt betrayed or couldn't believe it, but he was clearly very confused. Decided that I want to finish the chapter. Understood. Anyway, this is a really big deal if it's true, so I'll check it out. Tomotake, I do have one more request. He cut off the conversation was about to head out, so I couldn't help but call out to stop him. And when Udubisi tilted his head upon hearing me say request, I held up my hands together and continued. Please, I want you to keep this conversation a secret from Irie and Takano. Why? They've been treating us well. I still can't believe it. Maybe it's all just a misunderstanding. So I don't want you to make the two of them feel bad about this. Understood. Misappropriation of funds certainly is a sour subject. Don't worry, Rika. If I find anything out, you'll be the first person I let know. Thank you. I hope it goes well. I deeply bowed to him. When Tomotake saw this, his mood seemed to soften, and he spoke with a nice smile on his face. Like, for some reason, Tomotake is the other guy. I always forget his name. I'm like chronically unable to remember it. Leave it to me. More importantly, Rika, are you alright to handle the festival ceremony? Dr. Irie told me what happened. I'm alright. I'll do everything properly right until the end, so you can take some nice pictures. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be right up front with my camera, so good luck. Anyway, see you later. Tomotake waved his hand with a cheerful smile on his face as he descended the stone steps. I sat down in front of the offering box. Keeping lies straight is far more exhausting than telling the truth. There's no avoiding it. Otherwise, Tomotake would simply trust Takano and the others with no desire to investigate. The first step is to make him suspicious of Takano. Then, if he's able to arrive at the truth as part of the charade, Tomotake will prove advantageous and it might even increase his chances of survival. Build suspicion from everyday doubts. That's what Akasaka told me. Tomotake consulted with the Irie Clinic about the financial situation several times in the past. I want to properly cooperate with him. It would take far too much time to persuade him. And I feel sorry every time I remember that. I feel guilty. So easy to pass on animosity by making someone suspect betrayal. And that's what Tomotake is feeling right now. Tomotake, Irie, I'm sorry for lying. Betraying a nice, selfless guy like Irie, some greedy miser, really does make my heart ache. But I can't dwell on how it. Tomotake will die on the night of Higurashi, unless he learns about the life-threatening situations. I looked up at the sky. Beautiful full moon. The shrine grounds in the dark sky were illuminated by the dim light, bathing the surrounded area in a mysterious atmosphere. Will I be able to see a moon this beautiful in the future? I knew. Honestly, where did that go to spit? The moon wasn't going to answer. I lingered there for a while, leaning back against the offering box, pouring the thoughts in my heart towards the sky. And that, folks, very neatly and nicely. Brightness, blinding. So, I am going to end stream off here. I am going to say thank you very much for watching. It is very, very much appreciated. I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be streaming Nier Replicant on Saturday, where we'll be going back to Seafront and seeing how all the bad things we know happen could possibly get worse. Then on Tuesday it'll be Final Fantasy 14, where I will be finishing off the relic quests and working on the next one. I finished the grind yesterday, but I want to hand in the quests and do that stuff on camera before I start the next grind. So I'm going to be doing that. Next, I forgot Sunday. Sunday's Destiny 2. I don't think we've got more stories, so I'll probably be working on various pick-up challenges. And then next Thursday, Jesus, I've forgotten how words work, will be more Higurashi when they cry, Miotsukushi Omote. The next chapter is named Higurashi Incident, which is not a positive thing. I think the next chapters we've got Higurashi Incident, Rika missing, Runaway Shion. So, concerned cat emoji. Either way, thank you very much for watching, it is very much appreciated. If you are here, thank you, Thai and on for the raid, if you're here from the raid. Feel free to come along in the future if you want to watch me play more games, just in general. Do have a wonderful evening, be excellent to each other. Thank you very much for coming along, and I shall see you guys on Saturday.